year.
Right.
You just never have another one.
And for some reason, I know I'm looking at my camera right now. For some reason, I look incredibly red. I don't care, but whatever. No, I think the whole last election kind of thing is, I think it is really true because we are kind of staring down the barrel of World War III at this point in time. And if he declares martial law, then it's done with. You know, we don't have an election process when martial law is declared. And that's what they were thinking. You know, Trump's going to do it. Trump's going to declare martial law. And oh my God, and they don't have elections when martial law is in place. Now we're staring down a barrel of World War III at this point. And, you know, we got riots popping up everywhere, including the whole Palestine thing that happened in Washington, D.C. now. I'm sure you guys have seen a little bit of those videos. I feel it's more likely or not than this dude is actually going to sit here and claim martial law on us now. You know, it's a whole Trump's the dictator. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. And every single thing that they claimed he's going to do, well, they've done themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, including Nancy Pelosi screaming that Donald Trump was going to try to commit a military coup. Well, she did that on January 7th. So it's the same thing.
You think he knows what martial law is, or he just thinks it's marshmallow law where everybody gets marshmallows?
Probably the latter.
I'm going to get marshmallows, guys.
chocolate chip marshmallows.
Mr. President, I need you to declare martial law. Marshmallows? Good. I made fudge in my pants. Is that good too?
All right, let's go a little bit more here.
Your previous book, The Next Civil War.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really great conversation. I think we disagree on a wide perspective, wide range of things, but I think we agree on like basically everything in your book, like what's causing this, where it might end up. And then I saw that you and Andrew Yang put out another book, The Last Election.
Right.
And we got to talk about it. So are you saying that 2024 may be our last election in the United States?
Yeah. I mean, that Andrew came to me and wanted to talk about this because he's extremely worried about the electoral system, right? And its vulnerabilities, the particular vulnerabilities of the American electoral system and its constitution. And along with all the other stuff that we talked about, you know, when I wrote The Next Civil War, like I was very consciously trying to write stuff that I only felt certain of, which is very hard to do in the American context because everything gets caught up in, you know, flame wars and so on. And I only wanted to write about things that I know. And that's why I never ended up writing a chapter on electoral politics, right? Because everyone you talk to, you're just trying to triangulate opinions.
Yeah.
Sorry, say what?
I said, is this Harry from Dumb and Dumber? Because he looks like Jeff Daniels in that movie.
He looks tired. I know that.
Like Jeff Daniels mixed with Jim Brewer.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, the facial expressions that he gives are just like, you're watching it and you're just, what the fuck? What is happening here?
This picture sums up the entire episode. I'll just let you know now.
Right, cool.
I have no idea who the hell this dude is. Like I've never heard of him, never come across him.
I've heard Andrew Yang. I've heard that name before, but I've never heard this guy. No.
Right. And you know, I've never heard of anything this dude has to say. And I'm glad because this goes incredibly fucky real quick. But Polar Bear over there on Rumble says the people are realizing that they've never voted for the president. It was the Electoral College, and that's where the dangers of illegals come in. Illegals influence local and state, which affects federal. And he does have a point. It does.
Good thing we have a fully open border.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not only that, it's what happens is when they vote locally, because New York tried to do that, and they say, like, you know, you can vote locally. It's not going to be a nationwide problem. The problem is when you vote locally, those people start getting higher and higher in the ranks. And so then next thing you know, local election, you vote for somebody who's not an American citizen or you know, who doesn't belong, you know, in politics, and they're now the governor of New York City. And it's like, how did this happen? And because you let people who are not American citizens vote, you know, you end up with people who don't agree with American traditions and everything like that. So, you know, it starts a slippery slope.
Well, that plus the fact there are like at least 7 states that I know of that do let illegal immigrants vote in their local, which is a problem in itself because, well, these people who they literally have no allegiance to anything. other than the fact that they just want to make it to their will kind of situation, and what they came from is the only thing that they know. So having them vote for these people is how you get people like Rashida Tlaib in. This is how you get people like AOC in. This is how you get people that don't belong there in. And it's that kind of case. That plus the fact, the more illegals that are in there, they still count on the census. They still count on, getting your representatives and, how many electoral votes they have because of the population of them. They still affect federally. And that's kind of what Paula Bear was saying. Is they may not be able to vote on a federal level, but they still influence on a federal level very heavily.
I mean, they bypassed the 3/5 of a person real quick with that one.
Well, they start counting as two people eventually.
That's true.
But yeah. And it is a problem that we do need to solve, but it seems like most states or most blue states are trying to, like, there was this one state that's just like, as soon as you get an ID, you are registered to vote automatically.
New York and New Jersey were doing that.
Yeah, I think it is New Jersey that just did that here recently, and there's still legislation on the table to let anybody with an ID vote, illegal or not.
You're automatically registered as soon as you get your driver's license. You're automatically registered to vote.
Right. And if you let illegals get driver's license, well, they're automatically registered to vote. So, fuck. But yeah. And what's the only thing you need to vote in person? An ID.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to prove you're a legal citizen when you go to vote.
They didn't ask for ID when I went to vote last time at all. And I asked them about it. I was like, do you not need my ID? And they were like, what's your address? So I gave them my address, and they looked on the little list. They didn't ask for ID.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm originally from Jersey, and they don't ask for your ID. They just ask you your address.
Yep.
But now that I live in Kansas, they actually ask you for your ID in Kansas in order for you to vote. So
yeah, there's some places that don't. Yeah.
That's an even bigger problem then.
I know.
All right, well, let's go a little more then.
And everyone has an agenda, and you don't actually know how things work. And Andrew came along and said, like, why don't I explain to you how American politics actually works, and we'll put it in a thriller. And to his credit, I asked him for two things. I said, if I call, you have to return my call. Like, yeah, I know you're important and you're out fundraising and stuff like that, but I need the information quickly. And also I want you and your whole staff and everyone to tell me the actual truth. And that way I figured, whatever happened, I would at least know how American politics works.
So the previous book, The Next Civil War, this is more of like an essay, a description of what's going on and things you've seen. And the last election, the book now, is actually more, it's a novel, but it's kind of predictive. Is that it?
Well, I would describe it as a paranoid political thriller, but accurate.
Yeah.
Right. Where what we wanted to write was the most accurate political thriller that's ever been written. So we just got the absolute sort of core, like even boring details about the mechanics of how an election works, how and these systems that, people are always shocked when things fall apart. But there's if you know why things work and how they work, it comes as no surprise. Right.
So you've got so again, this is a fictional depiction based on all of these things you've seen and what's currently going on and what you like. It's kind of like what you feel could happen. Yeah,
I mean, there's kind of two aspects to it. So one is like the campaign stuff. So that was I asked Andrew, what are the three most important dates in a political campaign? Where I'm trying to plot a novel here, what are the dates? And he was like, first campaign fundraising report, second campaign fundraising report, third campaign fundraising report, right? And you realize talking to him, one guy I talked to was a humanization coach who is this is a literal human being who's an ex-Broadway actor who goes around the country teaching politicians how to talk like a human being. Right, and he does some things
not surprised.
And he does things like say something and then put a piece of Lego
that
on.
Doesn't tell you that they're completely out of touch with who they represent. I don't know what will.
Mm-hmm.
They have a person to teach them how to speak like a human.
He did say that.
I mean, all you have to do is just look at Ron DeSantis' campaign. You know, the way he does. Did y'all hear his speech where he's just running for president, where he announces he's running?
The one on Twitter what nobody heard?
Right.
Yeah, I didn't pay any attention to it.
Yeah, he's just like, well, I'm running for president and we're going to get America back on track and we're going to do this and that. And I'm just like, all right, why should I vote for you? Like, you show no interest in this whatsoever. You have no spirit, no charisma to it. You're not putting any kind of passion out there. What the hell?
And once again, leading to the reason why Trump got elected. Because
Right.
he just spoke. And
Well,
people are
that-
just sick and tired of the bullshit nonsense of robots and not answering questions.
That, and it was Hillary Clinton. So there's that too. I mean, the supposed body count behind that woman. Yeah. I don't want that as my president. Whether she did it or not. All likelihood she's involved, but yeah. So yeah, it's like, just to see these, if you have to have somebody teach you to speak, you shouldn't be running for politics. You shouldn't be president of the United States. Like, I fumble and falter through words myself, but I'm not running for presidency. You know? So why?
Go to
Why aren't they
Biden,
doing
say-
that for Biden? Like, somebody needs to send a real human to Biden and hook him up. He needs it the most.
There's no help for that dude. There's no help for that dude.
I
Like,
know. I know.
Because he
Yeah,
can't remember what they told him. Joe,
Yeah,
stop going after ice cream trucks. They're not there. Huh? Ice cream.
that plus the fact he actually sits there and says that he was giving away state secrets, and then he's like, "No, I'm only joking." No, you weren't. No, you weren't, because everybody in that room's like, "Did this motherfucker just say this?" Hold on, wait, what? Yeah, that was an interesting little video to watch. But let's go a little more here.
Or I'll ask you a question and then I'll throw you a wiffle ball.
I
and you
love how
catch
the fact
wiffle
he's
ball.
out of
And they
frame
do
though.
all these and this man does
Is it
not
because
lack
they're
for work.
lizards?
No, the reason is that because their job is fundraising.
Yeah.
So what they do is they go into rooms and they give the same spiel 70,000 times. And by the time they've given it the 35,000th time that they're asked the same question and they give an answer, they naturally, like, it's not really their fault.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just that they tune out. Right. And so it was him and like, I talked to a real live opposition researcher. And I mean, you talk to one of these guys for 5 minutes, you think you realize, like, everything I wrote in the next Civil War, not an optimistic book,
Yeah.
but like 5 minutes talking to this guy, I was like, oh, it's way worse than I thought. I mean, it's way worse. Like, talking to the Oppo researcher, they kept saying, like, I'm trying to plot a book. So it's like, okay, when do you release the scandals on this guy? And they kept saying, well, like, we unload the book here, and then it's like, well, you wait for their fundraising report come out, and then you unload the book on them then. And then after a while, I was like, hold on a minute. When you say unload the book, is there a book? And he's like, oh yeah, there's a book written on every American politician. And I was like, can I see one? And he's like, well, they're illegal to own, but I'll put one up on Google Docs and you can pull it down.
Wait,
like,
illegal to
they're illegal to own, but I'll put it on Google Docs so you can get it.
Would that count as ownership? Maybe it's only ownership if he downloads it.
Listen, you remember BitTorrent where you can download the movie? It's not your movie. It's not illegal to put up. So, he put it up. It's not illegal.
I don't know how that works out. Anyway, it's just like that. I heard that and it just blew my mind. And I was like, hold on. So you just admitted to crime live. You
Great.
just admitted to knowing secret classified information that somebody has given you. One of our politicians has given you live. What? But yeah. Look, Davey's like, I don't even know what to say anymore.
Listen, I'm trying to get more. I'm trying to get more than an hour through this thing.
Oh, we'll do that tonight, definitely.
to own.
Yeah, well, it's libel, right? Like, it's, I mean,
So it's civil tort. They're all
yeah.
defamatory.
It's defamatory, right?
Yeah.
So I see one, like, of this random politician, and it's everyone they've ever sat down next to a party that said something horrible.
Wow.
It's everyone. It's every financial transaction they've ever been involved in. It's every tweet that could be construed a certain way. It's also there was
Every
a
financial
part
transaction.
where it was like,
what?
This guy dated a female bodybuilder in high school. Can we do anything with that?
Wow.
Right? Like everything that they could smear a guy with. And I was like, who in their right? What sensible, decent human being? Like, what would the book look
Poor
like
guy
on me?
dated a girl
right? Like
who
on
was
any.
fitting into herself. Let's take that and make that a bad thing.
I'm just trying to figure out who that was. Because he's talking about something he's read. He didn't just make that up.
You know it wasn't Chris Christie, I'll tell you that right now.
Oh God, no. I wonder what the Obama book looks like.
Gay.
I'm just saying the dude missed the best opportunity to say he is the first black gay president. All right.
Once again, he didn't want to say anything about that. He was forced to say something about that. And then Dunderhead in the White House is like, this is the best fucking thing we could ever do, huh?
Yeah, granted, I don't think people were ready back then for that kind of thing, but yeah, maybe if he did it now. But he can't be president anymore. Thank God.
Mate, what if he decides to change his name? Could he do it?
I don't know how that works.
I mean, listen, Bruce Jenner killed a lady and then became Caitlyn Jenner, and then now there's no repercussions. So if he does that, maybe he can be the president again.
I don't think so.
I don't
Although
know.
At this point, I mean, who knows? No, I think, it's 2 terms and you're done.
You're done with that name.
Right.
But if he became like Barack Hussein Obama, if he became
Bernadette.
Yeah.
The way to do it is to run Michelle and just go through her.
So the way they're doing it with Joe right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Obama's even said that he wanted to run a 3rd term from a basement with an earpiece, and that's what he's doing. Mm-hmm. So, if he wants a 4th term, get Michelle in.
Well, there's no earpiece in his ear. So, he's apparently talking to the handlers and not Joe.
Fair enough. But, that was his words.
I don't know if you see some of the pictures, he's got something in his ear. So there's got to be something in his ear to tell him what to say, and he just fumbles it. There's no way that man can remember anything.
No, he's got that, and then he's got teleprompters, and then he has notes, and he still screws it up. No, I don't know. I mean, I'm saying they should just connect him somewhere. Just plug him in and roll him out. Be easier.
Oh God, this is where we've come to, ladies and gentlemen.
2023.
Right.
On all of us here in this room, right? Like, I mean, who in their right mind would do it?
And it's not just that; it's really easy to take things out of their contemporary context.
Oh, being a human being,
right?
Doing flawed things, making errors.
I'll give you an example of in 2016 there was a story in the New York Times, and it was considered to be highly dubious. And Dave Rubin gave his thoughts on the story. I can't remember exactly what it was. Mm-hmm. There's a video of me where I said, look, if you give me the New York Times or Dave Rubin, I'm going to trust Dave Rubin. Okay. Right. And then what happens now is people will take that clip and be like, Tim Pool thinks Dave Rubin is more credible than the New York Times, when I was making a specific reference to a single story. That's the kind of thing that can appear in books like this.
What's funny?
That would be
it really quickly. So I was flipping through TikTok, and I followed this old sports TikTok account, and they were showing how the press has never changed. The press has been the same way. So going into Super Bowl III, Joe Namath was saying that we're gonna win, and then somebody stood up and Joe finally just had it, and it was the last day before the Super Bowl, and he tells the guy, "Yeah, I guarantee you we're gonna win." For the rest of that day and the Super Bowl Sunday, plastered all over magazines, the paper, the news, Joe Namath guarantees win. The guy said it one time. So the news is continually, and they've done it forever, just take the one snippet you say and just put it out there. And Joe Namath was like, I only said that because I was sick and tired of saying, yeah, we're going to win. And they just put right in the front of the headline, guaranteed win. You know, so they take everything. They always take little snippets of what you say and blow it up, and they're just garbage.
Yeah, I mean they do that to everybody.
Yeah.
So that's definitely how they function with that kind of thing. I mean, you guys remember how the Trump thing was saying when he put out that tweet? They don't go after the people who they only go after the people who looking for the rigs in the election. The people that rig, they don't go after the riggers. And then they're just like, oh, that's a racial slur, huh? So now it's a racial slur to mention something like that. I mean, riggers is used for people that used to throw, used to raise the sails on ships. These are the people that work on oil rigs. They're riggers. You're racial slurring them now? I don't. But that's how they do it. They twist things, and it's a racial dog whistle. And again, I'm sorry if you hear a dog whistle and nobody else hears it. That whistle was for you. In every way. If nobody else hears it, that whistle was for you. But yeah.
The
opposition research.
Yeah, it would be like that, except it would be 7,000 of them.
And right. 7,000 times worse.
Yeah. And but also much more dubious. Right. Like much more like, well, this is like, it probably is meaningless, but we could do this. So when I talk to, and the opposition researchers are like the most boring human beings you ever met in your life. Like bank managers.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, this is their job. This is what they do.
Have you ever seen Sherlock Holmes? What is it? Game of Shadows with Robert Downey Jr.?
I tried 15 minutes and I was like,
oh, you didn't like it?
As a Sherlock Holmes fan, I was like, this is the lowest form of Sherlock Holmes that's ever existed.
However, I do like in the story where, to use my pop culture references, they refer that he finds the semi-automatic pistols. It's like turn of the century, 1900s.
Right.
And it's Moriarty basically saying war on an industrial level is coming and I'm going to own it.
Right.
And it was this interesting idea that the idea they're giving you is that for all of us right now, we understand industrialized warfare with machine guns and air raids. But before the Industrial Revolution, it was much more difficult to make weapons. For instance, I was researching about Civil War weaponry,
right?
And the advances in rifle technology they're like 50 years apart. It's like they use smooth bore muskets for hundreds of years,
right?
And then once we got to the industrial level, it's just all of a sudden everyone's got a semi-auto. It's crazy. What you're describing with opposition research today seems like the industrialization of politics. Of political lawfare, where it used to be that there was a scandal on somebody, they'd bring it up. Now it's every politician has a book.
Yeah.
They're gonna make up anything they have to, and everyone is in a heightened sense of like rabbit level, exhilaration and fear.
Well, I would say it's partly that, but
I want to touch on something Polar just put in the chat. He said, "Stop white hate now is considered hate speech and a hate crime. It's getting really crazy these days, and I fear it's getting worse." And I just looked it up on Twitter. There's a lot of talk about it. Like, seriously?
When was this, though?
November 4th. That was just, as a matter of fact, hold on.
Stop white hate?
Yeah. Hold on. Let's switch it. We go here. Share this tab instead.
A racist sign was found near Bellingham High School, and frustrated parents want to know what's happening inside the school. WBZ's Christina Hager's live in Bellingham tonight. Christina, the school says hate has no place on its campus.
Elisa, the superintendent sent out an email this week saying he's deeply saddened and that the school staff works hard to create an environment where all students can feel like they belong. But some parents here say more needs to be done.
Stop white hate, said the sign near the entrance of Bellingham High School. Police say 2 residents removed it when they saw it Saturday and brought it here to the police department, concerned about the tone.
I don't know what led to it. I don't know why they put it up there. I don't know if it was a parent that's upset because of the way things are going.
Since the spot is removed from
they brought the sign to the police station.
No security cameras where someone had propped the sign up along the main road.
There are hate crimes, right? And they have hate crime rules in the school, so enforce them.
It has some parents.
How is that hate?
Tiara Bacchus's daughter told her about it after the superintendent sent this email calling it deplorable.
She like kind of said it like nonchalant, like it's okay. And we just kind of looked like,
what, stopping the white hate?
Okay? And how are you going to just send out an email and expect everything to be fine? Like it's heartbreaking.
She says it's not the first time her kids have experienced racial tension at school.
These boys had a rope and they kept on saying the N-word. And my daughter, she got up and she went to the guidance counselor.
Police say
I'm done.
Yep.
I'm not. We're not finishing that. But, huh?
Who's their kid? Bubba Wallace?
Right. Well, I mean, what is so incendiary about those 3 words? Stop. We all know what that means. White. Pretty simple. Hate. There's nothing incendiary about that or violent.
And you
Quite
mean
the
to tell
opposite.
me kids are walking around saying the N-word, holding a rope? No. I call BS on that. Complete
If they
100%.
took the sign to the police station, if there's white kids running around screaming the N-word with a rope, you don't think the police would have been called right away?
Right. No, apparently, okay. Polar, you got a point, bro. You got a point.
We live in such stupid times. Like, I don't.
I'm sorry, that got derailed real quick. This is what happens, Haley. This is what we do.
Well, no, but look, if we think back at the Summer of Love, right? I mean, think of all the different signs that we saw then and how many of those were actually like, super violent and super offensive to a large population. This is so much more calm than that.
You had
Like-
someone call for the, I'm trying to use the word, but not the word, the, I guess, sodomization of Trump's son. A prominent person, I forget who it was, and people are just going off. But you say stop white hate, and people are taking signs to the police station.
Mhm.
What kind of a sissy world have we turned into? Not even a sissy world. The world's not sissy. The United States has become this sissified world where, we think that, once again, we think that we're the most important thing. We're not. We think that our rules apply to the entire world. It doesn't. We've become this, like, they laugh at us. The entire world is laughing at how we're just imploding from inside. They don't need to come and bomb us. They don't need to come and 9/11 us again. No, we'll just destroy ourselves and they'll just walk in and go, we're taking over. And half the population will go, okay, are you going to give us free Xboxes and juice boxes? Yeah, okay, I'll take that.
That's basically what's happening in real time.
Yeah. And kids think, all these kids were, oh, communism's great. Everybody, dude, you have no idea. And then they rally against the prison system. I'm like, do you understand? If that happens, that's basically the same thing. You are going to be imprisoned. They're going to tell you what to do. They're going to tell you when to wake up, when to go to work, when to do whatever. And then you're gonna go home. They're gonna tell you when to go to sleep. It's the same thing. You don't get to just sit at home and play Xbox or PlayStation all day and just be like, oh, I'm going to the store where there's imaginary food just jumps on the shelves by itself.
I mean, yeah, I'm just done with the whole damn thing with that. I can't take it anymore.
I'm with you.
Like
I'm
Polo
right
says,
there too.
like Polar says, whites are the only race that are taught to hate themselves and have no pride in their heritage. And, he is correct. And it's just, it is complete crap.
Listen,
that's the thing. And people just eat it up.
My girlfriend showed me a video of square dancing. And if you want to know what white culture is, that's white culture, square dancing. Oh my God. I said, next time somebody goes, there is no such thing as white culture, I'm going to put up a video of square dancing and go, look, you want to know what? Here it goes. You might not like it, but there it goes.
Yeah. All right. Let's continue a little more here.
But also the thing that I was amazed by, it's funny, because of course, when you say it out loud, it's totally obvious. It's like, politics is about money. Like, I knew that. We all knew that. I just had no idea that it was 12 hours of a politician's day. Right. Like that is the job.
Well,
right?
so-
It is gaining attention in order to get money, in order to gain attention, right? Like, so it's partly the celebrification of this stuff and the mimetic warfare aspects of it. But like what they do all day is fundraise. That's what they are.
Do you think that's why Trump was such a unique political figure? No, and that's not trying to have a positive or negative cast on it, but do you think that he was different and in a way that, or a different type of politician because of the fact that he, not that I know that he did or did not have a book, but do you think that like they were scrambling? We got to come up with this with the Oppo research now when he came down the elevator.
Oh, well,
because people would. He'd teased it for so long.
There's so much Oppo research.
I'm not saying that there's. No, I'm not saying that it's not, but it's not correlated together.
So
the
when
way
you
that we
talk to an
about.
Oppo researcher, I brought this up. I was like, "What's the point of scandal anymore?" Like, like there was a time I remember. I'm old enough to remember it, where George H.W. Bush, checking his watch, dominated a news cycle for 3-4 days.
Same thing happened with Biden when the troops came back.
Obama wearing a tan suit. That was like a news cycle. So
it wasn't a news cycle when Obama killed that kid Abdurrahman al-Awlaki.
Anyway,
it was not.
So Trump,
scandal free.
You know what wasn't a news
opposition
cycle?
When
the two Kennedy brothers decided to have women in a room and high five Eiffel Tower them, or when the Kennedys had women revolving doors around their houses and the news knew about it and nobody said a word. That's when. Also, nobody cared back then. Now all of a sudden it has to be scandal after scandal.
Yeah.
Scandals work.
Yeah,
they do.
Scandals ruin lives. I mean, it's like, that's sort of a tale as old as time too, though.
Listen, the scandals do work because look at the boot situation going on with DeSantis. Like, does anybody really care?
I'm so tired of hearing about the stupid boots.
Nobody really cares. If he wants to wear high heels in his boots, let the man do it. I mean, it's his own, it's whatever. But the fact that he doesn't own up to it is, I guess, the problem in it.
Listen, the more and more we go along, the more and more I understand why Britney Spears shaved her head and started attacking a van with an umbrella. Okay?
She was a prophet ahead of her own time.
She definitely was. Now she's just dancing around in a bikini with knives.
Oh my gosh.
That's funny because actually yesterday she posted on Twitter. She's just like, hey, look, yes, I was one of those free Britney kind of people, but maybe she does need to be locked up. And I was like, maybe? Maybe? But yeah.
Clearly, and they speak of it just this way, is like you are not looking for the bad things that they did. What you are looking for is the good parts of them that you then sour. Right. So like what is it's there's a gosh, I can't remember it, but you're not looking for bad things. Yeah. You're looking for the best part of people and suddenly to make it seem garbage. Yeah. So it's partly swift boating, but actually what you're doing is you're going into their base and just skewing it.
For people that don't know what swift boating is, it was looking at something that John Kerry had done. He was talking about something for Vietnam vets, I believe, and which was ostensibly a good thing, and they turned it around and made it seem like
that's right. He was
against vets, against everybody.
Yeah, he was a Vietnam vet.
There's another thing I want to point out with this, and he's starting to do it a lot more now. Like this is the first tactic that people do, especially when you're talking to people on the left, leftist kind of people. You say half a word, half a sentence, and they have to immediately jump in. Like the world's all about them. It's all about their kind of situation. It's all about their perspective, and your voice doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he does it constantly. He doesn't let Tim get a word in edgewise. He's the most important person in the room right now.
Well, that's funny. That's really funny. That's ironic.
What's this? If you could be a tree, what tree would you be?
Just ignore Shane.
I don't see the chat, so
you go to the comment on the side.
Yeah, on the comments there. But make asylums great again. Please make asylums great again, Polar. We need to do that.
Yep.
Can that be MAGA from now on?
Grippy Sock 2024, baby.
But yeah, it was just like, I was in that, like I said, behind stage, I was in that Twitter space with Harry Sisson. Like that's all he would do. Somebody would say like one or two words, and he'd just cut in. But no, listen. He was trying to make the whole thing his perspective, his way, and he would never shut up. And this is what they do. And this will continuously get worse as this goes along. But I just wanted to highlight at this point in time, it's already starting to happen. Honestly, Biden is doing the best he can. Trump didn't leave him a good economy to begin with.
Come on.
I think Shay's just fucking around.
He is.
Good, because I don't know. I can't say
Ask
that.
me about my whoopee. How much to shave your beard, Davey?
Nothing. I'm not shaving it.
It's No Shave November, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that is a thing.
Yep.
I've never followed any of that.
What do you use, Gillette?
Like, I don't even know.
The new slogan, the best a man can get.
It might as well, man. They're probably already doing it.
Wait till they throw the trans thing in there. Best a trans man can get.
That's why I
And
use
that
the
should-
quotations. The best a man can get.
I got it.
Okay. Oh, that's the wrong. I gotta click
George
there.
W. Bush was a not a deserter,
At minimum,
but, like,
shave the
got out of
goatee.
it, like they managed to turn that. That is opposition research. So with the case of Trump, there's nothing to sour, right? Like, there's no point you were like what they actually should have done from an opposition research point of view is made fun of his hair, made fun of his virility, made and made fun of his money, more like the fakeness of the money, right?
Made fun of his hair. I mean, they did that and it didn't work.
Yeah, they did the orange skin. That was sort of stupid.
Made fun of his virility. He fucked a porn star. Who's gonna fucking make?
Listen, we still don't know. The jury's still out on that one because he's saying he didn't.
I mean, there was hush money involved. She said he did. Whatever. But apparently, through the Steele dossier, he had Russian hookers pissing on him. Or he was pissing on them. I don't know which one it was. But you're going to sit there and try to make fun of the man's virility. Apparently, he's getting around. And every man's just going to be like, I don't know why you're trying. Like, he's just banging everybody.
And make fun of his money? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, he's so rich, he can afford anything he wants. What a bad guy.
Socialists. Like the Elon Musk thing, where he's just like $6 billion will end world hunger. And he's like, you guys have had more than $6 billion and we're still starving. What is my money going to do for you? And it's just like, you got a point.
We just sent, what is it, 14.3 billion over to Israel?
Right? So, making fun of the money ain't the. There is no way you can beat Trump by disparaging the man.
No.
There's really not. The only way you can stop Trump is if you get on stage with him and he starts going after you, and then you just be like, look, we can sit here all day going back and forth and making fun of each other, but the American people don't want to hear that. They would rather hear us actually talk about the issues instead of you just saying some crap. I don't want to shit sling with you. I'd rather talk to the American people and discuss between us which idea is better. That's the best way to defeat him, because you take that aspect of him being polar about it and the insults, you take that away from him when you don't engage.
And answer the damn questions. Stop
Oh, yeah,
going
that
around
too.
the questions. Everybody's like, well, what are we going to do about the border? The border is a very volatile thing. And I mean, when I was vice president in 2000, shut up. Just shut the fuck up. Tell me what you're going to do about the border. Are you going to close it? Or are you not going to close it? Are you going to spend the money? Another thing is, remember when Trump asked for $5 billion and everybody went, what for? You can't do that. And then we went and spent $200 billion on a war that we're not even supposed to be in.
Yeah.
Remember that?
But I mean, look, you guys want to beat Trump. Stop trying to disparage the man. Avoid that. You take away his biggest weapon when you do that. But no, let's engage in his playing field where he is the master at the shit. And then you wonder why.
Because they think that's what won him the presidency. They think making fun of each other and being at the Comedy Cellar is what is going to win them the presidency. It's no, motherfucker. He is who he is. Unfortunately, he's funny and he makes his points. You can't do that because you spend your entire life in politics. He's actually gone against mob bosses and had to face mob bosses to get property in New York City. You have just sat there and gone to law school with all your friends and decided at the yacht club that you were going to be the governor of New Jersey. Fuck your mother. It's not going to happen.
Could you imagine what Chris Christie would have done had he not been such a fat piece of shit, literally, with this whole campaign being Orange Man insulted me, put me in the White House? Could you imagine what the GOP debate would have been if he wouldn't have sat there and attacked every single person on that stage?
I don't know. I didn't watch it. It was boring.
Well, I got hit medical misinformation for them to actually them talking about it, so it's a thing. But yeah, it could have been a lot better. You could have made it would have made Nikki Haley look worse if nobody engaged with that shit. If he would have done that, he would have looked a lot better because everybody's tired of the shit slinging. Talk about the issues because we're suffering. I don't care if you don't like somebody standing in high heel boots. I want to know what you're going to do about the issues I face. Stop the shit slinging. Tell me what you're going to do about my situation. And I've been saying that for, God, since I was a kid. But it's more prevalent now than it ever has been.
If DeSantis was smart, he'd start coming out that these boots were made for walking.
Own it.
Yeah.
Fucking own it. Where's stiletto high heel boots?
Where's stiletto high heels, period?
I mean, I don't know about that far, but
oh,
yeah, the
come on.
thing is,
It would be hilarious if he did that. Just come out and he's wearing these stilettos just like 10 inches up and just walking out to that song. I'd fucking be like, good, great. Now let's talk about the issues.
I think most Americans are smart enough to know that when they're throwing personal insults, instead of attacking policies or instead of attacking certain issues, that they're smart enough to see that that's all they have. When you're going straight for things like that, I mean, that happens every day on social media. People don't argue about their points. They just automatically ad hominem and attack your looks or whatever. I just think we don't have time for that right now. Like, it's a really super serious time. And if you're not bringing the goods on how you're going to fix some of the issues that we have right now, I think Americans are smart enough to see through that.
We are. But well, what did George Carlin say?
Fair enough.
Imagine the stupidest person you know and know that half the population of the country is stupider than that.
That's so scary. My God. But I see it too. It's true. And I always wonder that. I always wonder, like, were there always this many stupid people and we just didn't know because we didn't have instant access to everything? Because you don't hang out with stupid people, right? Like, you don't go and be like, yeah, we're going to go chill with these people. I had no idea people were this. Well, no.
Sometimes stupid can be fun.
No, come on. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Listen, I wouldn't hire them. I'd hang out with them, but I wouldn't hire them to work with me.
When you're trying to stop people from putting light bulbs in a microwave, that's fun. All right. Yeah. But yeah, I wouldn't say most America. It's like the ones that you do interact with, the ones that are engaging, they do see through that. But the ones you actively avoid are the ones that are just like, oh, well, he insulted him. He did better.
Well, but I don't think they're watching any of the debates. That's just it. I don't think anyone. Okay, so it doesn't matter.
No. They don't even know these. They don't even know these people's names or faces. Right. They just vote and just be done with it, and then just listen to what the media tells them.
So that's just it. The candidate should at least know that much about it, and at least come with the fire. Yeah. And that back to your, to circle back to the original point that they don't know that, their constituency.
That's what I've been saying. We need some voter reform. If you can't tell me the name if you can't put the name to the face and the name and face to at least one policy that every single person on the ballot holds, you shouldn't vote. I'm sorry. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you are. If you cannot sit there and tell me who these people are and what they stand for, why should you interfere? Why should you have a say in the politicians that tell me how to live my life? It's a thing. You can hate me for it or not, but I 5-6 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to vote. If that were a thing, I wouldn't be able to vote because I didn't pay attention. But I am sick and tired of these people just being like, they just sit there and watch cat videos all day, and then they want to argue about politics. I mean, you can't even. I stream, these hearings, these subcommittee hearings, these Senate hearings, and everything, so you guys can understand exactly what your elected reps are saying, and it is disturbing as hell if you even pay attention for a second what they say, and you're electing these people. This is what gets me. This is why I do these Senate hearings, because me and Bowler. Like, Bowler's always there most of the time when I'm on stream. We have heard some fucked up things.
Like
favorite. One dude literally said he don't give a damn about the poor because the poor are the people that are causing the crime. And I'm just like, hold on. You do have a little bit of validity to that, but if they weren't so fucking poor for you just taking everything from them, would they cause that crime?
Or my favorite person in the world, Hank Johnson, who thought that Guam was going to tip over if too many military things were on the other side, one side of the island.
I'm glad I just waited on that.
And that motherfucker won 99% of the votes in his county.
I watch cat videos all day. Well, that's Davy's thirst trap.
Yeah, but the thing is, that's how Google wins elections. Okay, because Google, YouTube, all of them, they run ads in your recommended, they run ads on all your social media and stuff, these little itty bitty things, and you see it. And even if you don't pick up on it and, like connect the two, if you see that name over and over and over and over and over and you go to vote, oh yeah, I remember that one dude. Yeah, I think he's all right. And they will purposely, have Democrats, streamed right into those voters, the ones that they know are Democrat voters. They just hit the population. So anyone that's an undecided voter, they just flood every single ad and so forth. I'm just saying they don't even have to know, because, that's enough when they go to the ballot to say, okay, wait a minute. Yeah, I remember seeing that one ad. Boom.
Right. And even if you see these little clips running around about 2, 3, 4 minutes about them saying something, it may be something you like, but if you sit there and backtrack on what they're actually supposed to be talking about, it has nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing. They're only going for these viral little clips to make themselves sound good, but it has no basis on the issue at hand. Like during the IRS whistleblower hearing, that Jasmine Crockett woman, she literally walked in 5 minutes before her speech, sat down, she asked a few questions, and then she screamed, "Orange man bad," and racism. What does racism have to do with the IRS trying to investigate Hunter and Joe Biden for their crimes? What? But yet that went viral.
She might as well just walked in and went, "Nib high football rules."
Yeah.
That's all.
And then during the impeachment inquiry, she's just like, well, there's no evidence that you didn't even listen to any of the fucking evidence. I guarantee you haven't even looked at it. You haven't looked at a damn bit of it. I understand that it's hard for you to read because the American education system is full of it's shit. I mean, all you have to do is just look at Jamal Bowman's area. 25% of them are proficient at math and 37% of them are proficient at reading.
Bro.
But yeah, this was a middle school dude that thinks a fire alarm is going to open a door.
Did you see the video of him going to pull it?
Yes.
He literally, first of all, my favorite part is he pulls the one sign down, he goes to pull the second sign down, he misses it and just throws it on the floor and he's like, fuck it. And then he pulls the alarm and I'm like, and then you had the fucking audacity to tell everybody I was just excited to vote. I thought that's how bro, how dumb are you to not know there's cameras everywhere and everybody, but I don't even think he's dumb. I think he just doesn't care. He doesn't care because he got a $1,000 fine. He wasn't going to get in trouble. Mind you, he did exactly the same thing that the people from January 6th are being held captive for the last 2-3 years. And he did the same thing and he got a $1,000 fine. Every single person for January 6th should be allowed out just on that. Just on
he
that.
He got a $1,000 fine and then the real video dropped after.
And he lied.
Showing that he actually did it. It was not him just, oh, I thought it was going to open the door. No. Absolutely not. The real video dropped after he paid the fine and everything is good and whatever. Then the real video dropped and we found out what actually fucking happened. However, through the whole January 6th thing, the only thing we saw was the west end of the building that everything was going on about. You didn't see the north, the south, the east entrance where everybody was just let in. You didn't see any of that. There are people out there right now that don't even know that Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund stood up in front of Congress and said it is Nancy Pelosi's fault because she did not swear them in so they could be activated. She did not swear them in the night before, and it took 71 minutes for me to get the okay for the sergeant at arms to swear them in so we could activate.
Well, there are J6 defendants, that are doing time right now that their own defense never saw the proper videos or all of the videos. That's exculpatory evidence. That's something that you have to give to, the prosecution has to give to the defense in order to build their defense. So it comes out a couple weeks after they get convicted. What is that? Like,
yeah,
the opposite from his situation, the exact opposite.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring it up yet again. Dominic Pizzola's motion for mistrial, multiple Brady violations where some 50 undercover informants were found actually in the crowd instigating. They were instigating this shit. And because the government did not give up the names or the affiliations with them, the actual lawyer told the jury, you cannot use this as information to sway your opinion on whether these guys are guilty or not. So you're going to sit there and tell me that they had all these people instigating the crowd and pulling them in and all this other things, and these guys are guilty of seditious conspiracy?
And let me, because I was there. I wasn't in the White House. I went to the speech and everything like that. And they're talking about, everybody was done. You could buy Trump stuff for a mile and a half. There was people just along the whole rotunda, whatever, selling Trump stuff, so anybody could buy it. Plus, never mind you, the guy who was on CNN. What the hell was his name? The one who got in and was Xander. I don't know. He had a rally, a Black Lives Matter rally that morning at 10 o'clock. There's a flyer, and I have it, a flyer of him putting it on Facebook saying that they were having a rally before the Trump rally. So there were Black Lives Matter. There was Antifa there that day. Mm-hmm. So you're telling me nobody there was instigated. Nobody there bought anything brand new that day to try to influence people to do.
Well, dude, there's an actual video of the Capitol Police saying when we dress up like Trump supporters, and then they stop the video. There's a video of that where Capitol Police are saying when we go out into the crowd dressed as Trump supporters, and then they stop talking, walk up to the camera, and end the video. So no, there is a lot of evidence suggesting that it was a planned situation, and nobody wants to actually look at that because, well, if you did, you would have to admit that the government is involved in everything that these conspiracy theories have been saying. Kind of like the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot, where 3/4 of them were federal agents. Let's not forget about that.
The timing on that was pretty close, actually. Yeah. Like when people finally, found out what happened with the Whitmer case, like directly after that. Well, I'm just saying it was obvious from the get-go, but yeah, they've been involved in most of these things, and to think otherwise is crazy.
And the fact that the Democratic representatives are like leaving Ray Epps out of this. Well, he's on your side, so why would you guys want your guy? Yes, we don't give a shit whose side anybody's on. If they're guilty, they're fucking guilty.
He was on the FBI most wanted list for 2 or 3 days, and then they took him off. Yeah, because there's evidence he was, number whatever, and then no more.
Yeah,
but couldn't find him though. But they couldn't find him. But 60 Minutes, no problem.
Yeah, we can't find this man to subpoena him for the Proud Boys trial, so that's off the case. We can't do that. But yet they're not even a week after that, 60 Minutes had an interview. And I get it. There's a lot of editing and everything that goes along that. They probably interviewed him before the subpoena was supposed to be moved for him. But the fact that 60 Minutes could find him and nobody else can, not even the government, when we can find Saddam Hussein in a hidey hole halfway across the world. Don't play these games with me.
And the grandma and little old granny who was taking pictures inside the main rotunda. We found her, folks. We found her.
This is what I meant when we say we go off the rails, Haley.
You're cool.
But let's continue a little bit more here.
Right. Like that, but they couldn't quite bring themselves to do it. But like Trump is invulnerable to the kind of opposition research that other politicians are absolutely vulnerable to.
So you need innovations then.
Well, he's totally innovative. I mean,
yeah, my wife is right. It was Saddam.
I mean, it's kind of funny because it's like, is he an innovator or
no, baby?
What?
That was Saddam in the hidey hole.
Yeah, Saddam was
Bin
in the
Laden was
hideaway.
the one that was in his house. But yeah, that was the Delta Force thing that came out. But yeah,
did he just react to a changing world?
He's-
Right.
he-
Like, I mean,
I'll be right
you
back.
could say it either way. Like, I think I would be fine with either way. But basically, he understood that politics had become celebrity before anyone else.
He's WWE.
Yeah.
You like he's in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
You want to get in the ring
literally
with this
is.
guy who knows how to hit someone in the back with a folding chair, and you've never experienced that. He's gonna roast you.
He literally is the heel turn.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
From WWE. Like that. I mean, that is the basis of his politics. Right.
It's amazing.
And I mean, it's hugely effective. I mean, it was one of the really depressing things talking to Andrew was like, we're figuring out like who could run. And Andrew was just like, look, they have to be celebrities and billionaires. Those are the only people who have a
People who
chance.
can afford it.
It's
like, and they could just skip so many levels.
right. The skipping fundraising. If you are wealthy and you do not need to make phone calls and make promises, you've jumped the game.
Yeah, and you still would have to do it, but because the fundraising thing I learned is like it's not necessarily even the money; it's that when people give you money, they fight for you.
Right.
Right. So it's like it's that when you get somebody to give you money, they are invested in you, literally. Right. And so that's more part of the political process.
So it's more psychological than actually about the money then.
Well, it's also that you're definitely going to vote.
Yeah.
I mean, if you gave $250
Sure.
bucks to somebody, like you're definitely going to go and vote. So it's the same.
I mean, that is true. If you actually give somebody some money, you definitely go and vote. I've never given any money to politicians at all. However, did anybody see what James O'Keefe showed about the DNC and their voters? Their little role?
No.
They're
think I
laundering
did.
money. Yeah, they're laundering money for these people, like little $5 here, $10 here, here and there, damn near every day to people that haven't given for a long time. And the amount of hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars that they just launder through somehow. Yeah, I'll need to look that up because that is very concerning. And I'm sure the RNC does it as well. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure they do it too. But to sit there and he went to several people's houses, like old people. And he's just like, hey, it says here you gave $5 this day, $5 this day, $5 this day. In a year's time, you've given like $100,000. Did you do that? And
Yep. It was
No.
a little old lady, wasn't it? It was a
Yeah.
little old lady, something like that. And she ended up, they're like, yeah, you ended up giving like a couple of $100,000 to this person. And she's like, I have no idea.
yeah. And like I said, I'm sure the right does it too. I'm sure they do it too, but it's just alarming when you see that kind of thing, when you hear that kind of situation roll out and you're just like, this is where the money laundering begins. This is where they start getting all these millions of dollars that they have, these hundreds of millions of dollars that they have between each other, and nobody can pinpoint down where they're coming from. You know, that's how it's done.
Mhm.
Somebody's you gave one time 15 years ago? Well, you probably have given $5 a day, $10 a day every day since then. And you just don't know it. But yeah, that's kind of a little bit about what he's touching on, but doesn't go that far.
It's the same cycle of money and attention, right? Like,
So I don't, without spoiling the book, because I know
Yeah.
it's a novel. Let's walk through the fact based points of like what's going to happen next year that could result in this being the last election.
Well, here's the premise of it.
Now we're really getting into
the thing
it.
that it moves towards is the process in the Constitution called a contingent election, right?
Oh yeah.
So what happens? This has happened twice before, 1824, and then in a vice presidential candidate in 1828. If no one hits the threshold of 270 electoral college votes,
this is true.
What then happens is that it goes to, and by January 6th, right? For whatever reason, what happens is it goes to the House, and each House has a state delegation that gets one vote for president. So the Republicans would win every time, right? Like, because they just
not true.
You know, Wyoming, they have more House. It hasn't. Yeah, there's different numbers on it, but I mean, it's overwhelmingly in favor of the Republicans.
I think it's the House of Representatives that votes on the president, and the Senate votes on the vice president. If they do not reach 270 electoral votes, that's what happens.
So it's whoever has the House and the Senate during the presidential election year gets to vote for the president, basically. So it's not overwhelmingly just Republican.
That's if you don't get 270 electoral votes.
Yeah. So if the Democrats have the House or the Senate, then it'll be a democratically elected president. If the Republican has it, then it'll be a Republican. So
it's either one or the other. I do think it's a House. They'll speak on it here, but I do think it's a House that votes on the president and the Senate that votes on the vice president.
So, but either way, it's not overwhelmingly Republican the way he's trying to frame it, no matter what. Yeah.
But then again, that is one of the tactics of the left is because you all own everything, even though we have control of damn near every institution, damn near every media, damn near every bit of politics whatsoever. Anybody that could influence your decision in any way, we control. It's all Republicans. That's another tactic. They sit there and try to say that they are the underdog in everything, but they never are. Oh, well, she went there, but they never are, and it comes up time and time again with these kinds of things, with these kinds of tactics. This is what you will see when you come across this thing. You know, they're like Emma Vigeland. You remember that episode? We went through that, Davey. Emma Vigeland said that, you know, we don't see the type of money that you guys see in, you know, we don't have that kind of the type of money that the right has in, you know, the independent space. Complete fucking bullshit. Because the right is only these people that you see on the right are only funded majority by the people that actually listen. You got the Young Turks that are funded heavily by the government. You got the Majority Report that are funded heavily by their supporters, which are literal companies. And they're like, oh, well, we don't get that much because we talk about we're against capitalism. No, the fuck you don't. How many ad reads y'all got in that shit? I mean, you even pop into the Majority Report when they're live or something like that. You will see the majority of people actually just railing on them. You know, you go through their comments section, the majority of them are just railing on them. And they're not funded by the people. They're funded by backdoor. I'm not going to say backdoor, but they're funded by these corporations that just want to get ads and everything out because there is a little bit of viewership for them. And there is a little bit of return on investment. But the right, I mean, look, the Mug Club thing, that is literally funded now by the people that give money to view their after show kind of thing. Mm-hmm. They give money to see what Alex Jones has to say. Like Tim Pool here, almost half of what he brings in is the people that pay him 10, 15, however much dollars a month to get access to him. You know, not access to him, but access to his, you know, his information, the things he does in the backgrounds, those kinds of things. And this is what you see. A majority of these big right-wing shows are funded by the viewers. And it's an alarming kind of situation, but it's one of those tactics where, well, we're always going to try to play the underdog because everybody goes for the underdog. And they're never the underdog, though. They never are. Overwhelmingly, underdog is anybody that's Republican. But yeah, that's one of the tactics. And this dude tries to use that a bunch of times in this.
So this means that by this method, there's also a separate method for picking the vice president through the Senate, which would you could have a Republican president and a Democrat vice president, which would be, I mean, hilarious. But you would have it would be. So it goes to the House Republican, it goes to the House delegates. They each get a vote, and so you have an election which is constitutional, but which does not reflect either the popular vote or the Electoral College vote. Right. And so what you need for that to happen is a third party candidate who takes a significant amount away. RFK, I mean, some of the numbers they're showing are pretty like what's in here. Right. And if that happens, it's quite possible that no one at all would reach 270. If you throw into that election denial and faithless electors, which has happened in American history, you get an election where the point is that it would be constitutional but illegitimate, i.e. exactly like elections that you mentioned in North Korea or East Germany or whatever.
There's been a big conversation around,
again, faithless electors. That is the alternate slate of electors that is used in every single election. I hate this fucking claim. It's like faithless electors, fake electors, these kind of things. This is brand new. This is something that everybody has just now rallied around because they don't understand the fact that there is an alternate slate of electors just in case a challenge actually does succeed. They're not going to sit there and say, well, you don't have a president for a few months because we got to let the state figure their shit out. No, that's not what happens. If a challenge succeeds, they take away the certified vote and they bring in the vote for the other candidate. That's how that happens. And that's been that way for a while. And Davey just left. He'll be back. But yeah, that's another one of those claims too that just bother me. That people don't even understand. You know, you rail against the Electoral College because it should be a popular vote kind of situation. No, it shouldn't. There's a reason why the Electoral College exists. And then you call the Electoral College fake for having a backup plan just in case something happens. Like, I can't stand this, but yet he sits there and says, okay, well, yeah, it is a legitimate thing, but they're faithless electors. You're trying to use this language to make people say, oh, well, there should be no reason that exists then. And that shit bothers me. It really does. Because, again, if you don't know these things, why should you be able to vote for the politicians that tell me how to live my life? You got anything for that, Haley?
No, I'm trying to get caught up. But I liked your rant. Go on.
All right.
Last
will
night
be
a
back
podcast
soon.
Comes out. Tucker Carlson says he thinks RFK Jr. pulls votes from Trump.
We're still going with
However,
this
I think
now.
that's probably not correct based on the conversations we've had. And I think there's, like 10 polls and 7 of them show the inverse actually with RFK Jr. Biden actually sinks a little bit more than Trump. But regardless
it doesn't matter.
Exactly. My point is this. When we talk about that, the one thing left out is all that really matters is RFK Jr. wins maybe one small state or something.
Exactly. Or, even gets, like if he's in Maine and he gets some of the Electoral College votes there, that could tip at splits. Like, this is a fine game, right? That you guys have been playing with your elections since 2000, right? Like all it takes is like a tiny little flick to really prevent that from happening.
I think Nebraska famously has the split with like the urban and the rural area.
Yes. So I actually myself can't keep track of them. Like I tried for the book. I was like, I'll have a map. And I was like, it's insane. It's this patchwork 18th century system. Keeping track of it, even for someone who's like, I'm going to keep track of it for 3 months, very hard.
I think most states are winner take all.
Yes,
And
almost all.
almost all of them.
Yeah.
But if
Mhm.
RFK wins even a handful of electors, and then neither Trump nor Biden or whoever, I don't think it's going to be Biden. It's got to be somebody else. But if they don't reach 270, then it goes to the delegations like you explained.
Yeah.
I couldn't find the number, but there are more Republican states than Democrat states, which would result in the Republican candidate winning.
It goes back and forth, but there's just an overwhelming like preponderance. The likelihood of it being Republican is much higher.
And so we had Jen Kuger on last week.
Yet they keep saying
And
that
I believe he's incorrect
the
in his
Republicans
broader view of that.
win the popular vote every single time.
No, because overwhelmingly for the past 4 or 5 elections, it's been Democrats that won the popular vote.
I was just making sure because I
mean, that was their biggest claim about, Trump winning 2016 is the Democrat. Hillary Clinton got the popular vote. So why is he president?
Yeah, but didn't he get the popular vote last time?
No, because the last
Trump
time it
didn't?
was, yeah, Biden got 81, Trump got 75.
For the popular vote?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah.
But because Arizona, and this comes up with the Kerry Lake trial, Arizona didn't do their elections correctly. 2/3 of their signature verification was done within 3 to 5 seconds, which means you never even looked at it. You just hit yes, click, yes, click, yes, click, 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 click. That's what they did. Muskegon County in Michigan actually found that there were over 800,000 illegal voter registration, 150,000 illegal votes that were actually counted in that whole ring that they were actually looking through for the investigation. They had like AR-15s with silencers and custom pistols. Like, why would you need that for an election harvest? Ballot harvesting? What the fuck? But they found 150,000 votes that were illegally cast, and they still counted. You got Fulton County, Georgia. Who was it? Rasmussen reported like there was 120,000 that were illegally cast. Nobody wants to talk about that shit. We haven't seen anything from Pennsylvania. Why is that? Well, Pennsylvania illegally changed their laws so they could say everything was done legally. So
just buy me 12,000 votes. I'm not saying that. They're telling me you can find me 12,000.
Yet Matt Rasmussen, who's pretty credible through all their shit, still says, yeah, there was 120,000 that were illegally cast. Sorry, it's looking like the claim about stolen election was actually true. And we can talk about that on YouTube here now. So your channel's safe, Davey.
But the general idea, he said, was the plan for 2020 was with January 6th, was to disrupt the electoral vote
ridiculous.
Count, which would, and Mike Pence would say, I'm not going to accept these. They got to go back to the state legislatures.
Right.
That would result in a contingent election. If that doesn't happen, then he believed that January 6th's purpose was to disrupt the count entirely so that they would then say, well, it's got to go to a contingent election.
Right.
I don't think there was a plan at least any high level. So I don't agree with Jen on that.
I don't think they knew what a contingent election was.
Right.
No, not at all.
I mean,
it's right. I think a lot of these people were just, if you look
they
at
were winging it like on a wing and some insane demand that they were like, what the hell are we supposed to do? I mean, that it was,
there's one guy who's going to jail now for like 2 years or whatever. And he's on video being like, we did it. We're in the building. Haha. And it's like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like,
what is we did it?
In the 1600s, perhaps occupying a building meant you were now in charge, but that doesn't mean anything today.
Yeah.
But if Mike Pence did say, I think it was like even one state, if he said the state legislature of this state has disputed their election and it is currently in litigation, I will not count these votes, Trump would have won.
Well, I think
it might have been 2 states.
Well, technically, I think it'd be a little harder because the contingent election has to take place on the 6th. Right, like the electoral the college vote had already happened, right? It's like like
I see what you're saying, right?
Like the January 6th is just the certification,
right?
Like they disrupted the certification.
He would have had to have done it prior,
exactly. So like on January 6th, if he had done that, it wouldn't have made any difference because the certification legally, because the certification has already happened. So if the decertification does not arrive for any reason by January 6th, then it goes into a contingent election, but
No. No, this is why they have that whole little Senate hearing, is to hear if any person actually does say, hey, I contest this for whatever reason. That's why that exists.
You mean like they did in 2016?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And somehow in 2020 it was a problem. Yeah. No, that it is an actual thing. This is why they do this. They sit there and I contest this because of this reason, this reason, this reason. They go through the hearing about the whole thing, and then these people vote whether, hey, your contention is actually real or not. There is a problem here. And then they throw out the certified vote if it succeeds. If not, they use the certified vote. And if nobody gets 270 by the end of all that process, then we go into a contingent election where they vote, House of Representatives votes for the presidency and the Senate votes for the vice presidency. So there is literally fail-safe after fail-safe after fail-safe for this thing. Then the end all be all is the House of Representatives and Congress. But he's sitting there. Cenk was trying to say that their whole plan was to disrupt that, to put Trump into the. It never would have happened in the first place. Because at that point in time when that was going on, the House of Representatives and the Senate were Democrat. It wouldn't have happened. Even if it would have gone to a contingent election, it still would have been Biden and Kamala Harris. In any way, it still would have done that with contingent elections. So what Cenk was trying to say with that dumb shit is completely and utter ridiculous bullshit.
We did it, Joe.
These are the voices. These are the voices on the left that I'm starting to think that these people are really fucking dumb. Like they don't know these things. They just speak. And it's amazing to me that a lot of these people don't even know what the hell they're talking about. But yet they have the biggest voices. It's scary.
Well, if we continue on, he proves it.
Yeah.
Because he just keeps going back and forth with anytime he says something and then somebody says something else, like Phil will challenge him on it, and then he'll go, well, maybe not the whole that does that the rest of the episode.
Yeah. But you got anything, Haley? You just been sitting there.
You keep doing the best freeze frames for this guy. I've actually kind of admired it.
I'm good at it.
Yeah. There's been some good ones.
Let's go.
It has to take place on that date.
Yeah.
Right. The U.S. electoral system is both chaotic and incredibly specific.
Right.
Like, so it's it's not like they can in Canada, if something happens like this, you just have another election in 4 weeks and that's it. Right. I mean, but you can't. You have no mechanism for doing that.
An interesting point was brought up. I think it was Ian.
We can't even finish our own election in a fucking
We don't need to
month.
rush elections.
Right.
It's like he's right. Like if there's an issue, I don't see a problem with being like, okay, hold on, guys. This one's going to take a little bit longer to figure out. Let's just chill and then we'll litigate. Everything here is like, no, it must be this day. It must be done or else.
Particularly national elections.
The U.S. Constitution is a seriously problematic document, right?
The Constitution?
Of course it is.
Intentionally.
Well, right.
Well, I mean, look, it's a work of great genius, but it's a work of 18th century genius. And we're living in the 21st century. And it doesn't this part of this problem is the edge of it.
The resistance.
Just to be clear, like U.S. Constitution is a work of genius. Like I'm not.
No, I think you're completely right.
But it's just an antiquity.
The pushback that you are going to get from people that are that believe in the Constitution or that favor the constitutional system is not so much that there are not things that could be better in the Constitution. It's that if you allow someone to try to change it, they're going to change it in a way that takes power away from the states and centralizes it. And that the whole point of the Constitution is not to centralize power.
But
all right, hold up. I'm going to ask both of you guys this. What is the first 10 amendments in the Constitution called?
Declaration.
The Bill of Rights.
Oh, the first 10?
The first 10 of the Bill of Rights. The only ones that are never supposed to be changed. What is the 10th Amendment?
Gives the rights to the states to allowed to make
If
laws.
nothing in the Constitution covers whatever issue, it is the right of the states to delegate themselves on that issue. That's exactly what it is. There's a lot more wording to it other than that, but that's exactly what it means. If it's not covered in this document, from here on out, it goes to the states. There's a lot of federal laws that are not covered in the Constitution, which means it should be state issues.
Haley, I got a question. I've said this for a long time. What do you feel about just going with the Bill of Rights? And that's the only laws federally.
Well, I honestly, I see the guy's point as far as it being the Constitution being sort of archaic. I think there are some things that are problematic because of the new state of the world, everything as far as technology and but how do you go about updating something like that? You know, it's like you said, if they ever gave them the power to do it, I mean, it would go away. Like all of our rights would be gone so quickly. So, I mean, I don't know. It's as perfect as it's ever going to get, I think, and it's worked for this long. And I think it's just something that we don't touch. Maybe there's, I would be too afraid to. I don't know. Every time I think about like, gosh, maybe that could be tweaked. It's like, nah, let's not even start.
So. I mean, the original, the writers of the Constitution were genius. They were very smart. I mean, look at the way, I guess the education system has kind of starting to fail us, but they were very smart for the things that they said, and they kind of knew everything that was probably going to happen. They were very well educated. So trying to change it now with the education system and the fact that the people will just jump onto anything that anybody who will give them anything free, it just leads to, it's going to lead to chaos.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's going to lead to nothing good. I mean, these people, I mean, when it comes to an election cycle, they recycle the same things over and over and over again. They don't change. They go for abortion. They go for gay marriage. They go for free this, free that. And as soon as the election's over, you don't hear nothing about it until the election cycle comes back again. And then it goes back to the same thing. So it makes you think that these people who are going to just do that are going to actually change it to something that is good for you. There's no intention of being good for you. There's no intention good for me. And that's why they left it, the 10th Amendment, to the states. Everybody forgets that we're the United States of America, but we are separate countries in and of itself. Every state has their own legislation. Every state has their own Senate. Every state has their own quote unquote president, which is the governor. That's why when the shutdowns happen, the president can't tell the entire nation to shut down. The president can only tell certain people in certain, federal buildings that what they can and can't do. But in all, the governors were the ones who had the ability to keep the states open if they wanted to and not. But everybody doesn't understand that. Everybody thinks, well, the federal government said this, so this is what it is. No, the federal government is technically not the end all be all.
Yeah.
Well, I would also say I don't like the whole idea of just going with the 10th Amendment. I'm sorry, just the first 10 amendments. I don't feel like that should be a thing because think of everything after that. Giving black people the right to vote, giving women the right to vote. Think of going back on that. So we're talking about just straight white men who own land.
But where does it say that in the first 10?
Where does it say that in the first 10? Anything that is not anything that is not written in the first 10 goes to the states.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So then
So
states
the
would be
states
allowed
vote,
to just...
Right. And how many people are saying repeal the 19th? Across the country, that is a big call.
You really think that people are honest, are real about that?
No, they're not. But still, I mean, if you were to actually go and say repeal the 19th and you left it up to the states, how many people would actually really vote on that? Especially seeing as how in 2020, they're just like, hey, if men were given the right to vote, it would all be red. If women were given the right to vote, it'd all be blue. You know, that kind of situation.
Yeah.
If you were to take away all that, and I'll say it, I've said it before and I'll say it again, for especially Republicans that make this call, you would take away my wife's right to vote, even though she would vote in your favor more often than not, to give that power of her vote to somebody else like Bill Gates. The fuck is wrong with you?
Listen, like I said before, women outnumber men in the country right now, so women would take over everything. So I'm speaking on a dead issue. We'd be SOL if they're just like, no, you know what? Men can't vote. And you're like, wait a minute, hold on. And we couldn't do anything because there's more women than men here now. But yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess, but I don't know. I just think the first 10 for the federal government, the first 10 are just basically this is because the Bill of Rights and the Constitution don't protect the government, don't protect you from the government. It protects the government from you. You know?
And a lot of people have forgotten that. Yes.
Yeah.
But it's I would not take away what we have right now. Maybe some things do need to be tweaked, but we need to seriously sit down and think about it.
Yeah.
But I would not just go with the first 10 because everything that we've done since the founding of this country would literally be undone. Maybe that's a good thing, but I don't want to go back that far. I don't want to dismantle everything from that point and just I do call for it starting again, but not in that aspect. Not like that. There are some things that do some damn good for us. And having, women's right to vote, I don't care how y'all think about it. They should be able to have a say just as much as men do. Having black people having the right to vote, they should have a say just as much as you do. Everybody should have a say just as much as you do, so long as you understand what you were voting for. I would take that away. If you don't understand what the hell you're voting for, there should be no reason why you should be able to vote. That would be the only change I would make to it. Because, I've gotten pushback from that whole thing. Okay, so who determines what's the answer in something like that? Okay, that would have to be a federal thing. Well, who writes those questionnaires and things like that? There is a challenge to that, and I understand that. That is a problem that I still have yet to even work out myself. And I'm pretty sure there are people who are smarter and more learned than me that could actually go through that. But I'm not going to take away everything that we have built so far to fundamentally change and go back to the very start simply for a problem that can be easily solved. And it's easily solved by, if you're stupid, stop it. I mean, that's the way I put it.
If only it were that easy.
I wouldn't take Haley's right to vote away.
Thanks.
Just because she's a woman. Now, if she didn't understand what the hell she's voting for, yes. You shouldn't have a say in my representation if you don't even understand what's on the ballot. But just because of the genitalia between her legs, I wouldn't take that away. And repealing everything but the first 10, that would happen. And it would go back to the states. And again, like I said, with that, the whole state representative, the call for the 19th Amendment being repealed, how many people would actually vote on that, not understanding what the repercussions of that would be? So I don't want to do that, but there does need to be a little bit more refining to the situation.
It makes me wonder if more people would pay more attention to local campaigns. You know what I mean? Like if that were to switch that way, maybe, because I feel like there's so much power in local politics. I mean, that's where, the crux of everything is. Would people pay more attention? Would they know who their candidates are and for city council and board of education, everything all the way up to, U.S. Senate for that matter?
Great point.
I'm pretty sure they would. I mean, Vivek's saying, for you to vote, there should be a civics test. Okay. So understanding the basics of how our government is supposed to work is not enough. Because, okay, granted, there are a lot of people that don't even know that the three branches of government and how they work out and everything like that. I get, okay, so you have a point with that. But those that do, that still don't pay attention, they're looking at cat videos all damn day, and then they see a post about how Orange Man is bad, and then they go back to cat videos and then see another Orange Man bad vote. They're going to think Orange Man is bad without even knowing what the hell he did for this country. You know,
That's
they're
just
not going
it, though. That's how they're winning elections, and they're doing it by
Exactly.
between 6 and 25 million votes just by using Google.
Mm-hmm. And Google, you know, there was that. What was that dude's
Unwinnable.
name? What was that dude's name that actually proved that Google was swaying shit, because anybody that was Democratic in nature would have that reminder to go vote, but anybody that was Republican, they were just given the regular Google homepage. And then he called it out, and then that shit switched.
Epstein. I swear it was, though. Dr. Robert Epstein and Bowman.
Robert. It wasn't Epstein.
Are you sure?
Because that's Jeffrey.
Epstein.
Epstein. It's a pronunciation of it, like the Alex Epstein thing. Like everybody's just like, oh, you're Epstein kind of dude. No, but they're
Robert. Yeah, hold on.
Robert Epstein.
Robert Epstein. Hold on. Google search.
Epstein.
Yeah. Large scale monitoring of 2020 that forced Google to back down on two of its most powerful online manipulations. Yep, Robert Epstein.
And that's exactly, you know, that calls back to the whole, you know, Republicans own everything kind of claim. How the fuck can you say that when Silicon Valley, which is everybody, you all have interactions with Silicon Valley. It doesn't even matter what anybody says. The fact that you were even looking at this now, the fact that you were watching online right now means you have some kind of connection to Silicon Valley. The fact that you were hearing this right now means there is a little bit of pushback, but how much of a pushback could that be when you bring up Google to look at everything and Democrats overwhelmingly say, hey, don't forget to vote. And Republicans don't see shit.
Remember when everybody lost their mind when people were like, yeah, somebody put on Twitter that don't forget to go to the election day, November 4th or something like, or a couple days after the election. And they were like, misinformation. But yeah,
the dude that got fucking, the dude that was put in prison for a meme.
Yep.
But yet a woman said Republicans don't ever vote and nothing happened to her. It's the same shit. We call it a double standard. It's really not a double standard. It's a single standard. It's a communistic fucking standard. Our way or the highway, no matter what.
Listen, I don't. Your wife is being mean. Davey and Drunken want us to vote, but they still gonna mansplain us. Mansplain to us, Haley.
I'm listening to it. I'm doing my best. Doing my best over here, girl.
Well, she can chime in at any time.
Yeah, just tell us to shut up. We will.
I mean, yeah. My wife tells me that all the time. Just tell me. Yeah, boo-hoo, Davey. All right, let's continue a little bit more here.
I would say the issue is the Constitution can be amended.
Jefferson said if a constitution lasts longer than 19 years, it's a contract with the dead.
Wow.
Right? He said, like, if you need to change it every 20 years. So like, Canadian Constitution was written in 1982. We could all read it in this room and know exactly what it means.
The argument,
right?
The argument was because the people that signed the Constitution have passed away. They're no longer in power. So that means that the people that exist now didn't have any say in it. So you can't say that it's a contract with the people, because the people that exist today had never had a say in the Constitution. And there's validity to that argument.
Yeah. You're living with ghosts now, great ghosts, right? Like some of the greatest geniuses that have ever lived, but it's still ghosts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
And like this extremely, this jalopy of an electoral system, like this, like patched together, it is very vulnerable. Like
Absolutely.
it could. I mean, it could break down. Like I don't know if it's 2024, but I mean, all signs point to like a lot of weakness. It's coming.
I got bad news for you,
Yeah.
Stephen. Your book, The Last Election.
Yeah.
You got it wrong. The last election was 2020
or 2000.
Or exactly. And that was the point I was going to make. We've had this discussion, and is the last election 2024, or are we already at the point where with 2020 the dispute? Well, hold on. There was also challenges to the 2016 election. Well, hold on. 2000 was determined by the Supreme Court, and I'm a little kid for that. But the point is, at a certain point, I mean, to be fair, you could argue since 1876.
Yes.
A council determined who was going to be president because there was a dispute.
Yeah.
We've long had these disputes, and then the machine gets mechanized. But I think in fairness to what we're actually trying to argue, the contemporary issue, in 2016, Hillary Clinton lost.
Yeah.
Donald Trump wins. And for the next several years, they accused Trump of being a Russian spy or a Russian agent or having colluded in some way with Russia.
Not my president.
Not my president. And it resulted in hobbling the Trump administration in certain ways. He couldn't fire certain people.
They hobbled themselves well enough.
I think it's fair
they
to
didn't
say
fill one
two things can be true.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly.
Fair
two
enough.
things.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to disagree with that, but
Yeah.
he was hobbled by could he fire Comey, and could he change things that a president should normally change? He wasn't able to do it. There were a bunch of other issues too. He was hobbled in a lot of crazy ways. When he tried withdrawing troops from Syria, his advisors, the commanders, lied about the troop presence, lied to the American people. That's insane to me. And so if we're talking,
I would argue that would be a military coup.
Yeah.
I mean, if the military is not telling the president exactly what is going on so they can continue to act the way they normally do because of whatever reason, I would argue that would be a military coup. Because the military is acting on its own accord and not taking orders directly from the commander-in-chief.
Yep.
So the fact that they said, hey, we only have this many people over here, so okay, fine, pull them back. Okay, so we have 3 times as many, so those other people get to stay. And the president has absolutely no idea that they're there. That would be a military coup. Because the military wants to act on its own accord, to do its own thing. It's happened multiple times. And y'all don't, if you look into these things and you sit here and, especially for all the left-leaning people out here, I urge you 100% stop reading just the headline. If you're really going to go into the crux of the argument, when you read these mainstream media articles, read the last 2, 3, 4 paragraphs at the very least. Just skip through all the bullshit, skip to the end, because that's where the real information is coming out. They will feed you a whole bunch of shit knowing that damn well you're going to lose interest within 20, 30 seconds because TikTok has flooded your mind thinking that's information right there and there. You're not going to read towards the end. Overwhelmingly, people know that. So they put the real information at the end. And the real information at the end normally contradicts the headline. Damn near every time. And you can tell, like Haley here, she's a journalist. You can tell the good journalist from the bad journalist because the headlines in their articles will always reflect the information in that article. If it doesn't, you get people like Taylor Lorenz. You get people like damn near every single writer for the Washington Post who post Orange Man bad, but yet he did good here. You know, you get that kind of shit, and it's just people don't pay attention. Okay. But yeah, I fucking implore every single one of you, watch it. I mean, if you're really going to look at these articles, you look at the headlines, see what it says, skip to the end of the article, read the end of the article, because that's where the real information lies. Except for other journalists, there are a few out there that actually do what the headline reads exactly what the article is. And the more you do that, the more you'll actually understand who's the good journalist and who is not.
Well, then again, and nothing against Haley, like most of the people who are journalists now are opinion writers.
Right.
A lot of them just give you their opinion. They'll tell you they're journalists, like this gentleman up here who will tell you he's a journalist, and then he'll turn around and tell you that, I don't really write opinion pieces, but I write opinion pieces. But it's not only opinions, it's real journalism, but I write opinion piece, but I don't write opinion. Like if you look at it, most of the times it'll tell you opinion piece, but they'll pass it off as fact.
Well, he's right about attention span because that really does drive all
Yep.
headlines, and it's something and clickbait, people, you see it for a
Mhm.
split second and then it's gone from your brain. You don't think about it anymore. Reading is sort of a dying art for that matter. Writing and reading are sort of dying off. But yeah, that's how they get you. They bank on that. That's how they make their money. And honestly, more than that, propaganda. I mean, that's how it's spread through everywhere is headlines.
Smith
People
Money
read
back.
it sticks. Yep, and they don't look any further. That they are looking for, key talking points so that when they go to the water cooler tomorrow morning, and gather around and talk with their buddies or in the break room or whatever, they know what they should be saying. They don't
Correct.
actually invest the time. You should be looking at topics as if you are trying to pick out a lifelong mate. Like if you're really interested in something, flesh it out. That's all. Sorry. That's my writer's aspect on it.
Well, I mean, that's what really picked me up on you, with that whole thing, because I'm not gonna lie. All right, Ashley was the person who's just like, "Hey, check this, check this girl out. She's pretty good with her writing and everything." And I started reading more articles from you, and I was just like, "Okay, the headline matches up. Everything reaches." She definitely goes like that one article. You went so far back as to say, DARPA started the internet, and I was like,
we have a winner.
somebody went that far back, and I'm just like, okay, I got it. I understand. You're actually doing your work.
I got tired of seeing all of this. Okay, that's it. I got tired of being the one that's like, why are you not taking this information in? So I try to be very thorough and in depth. So I'm glad you enjoyed that one at least.
Damn it, Haley.
Yeah,
Now I gotta
you do a good job.
Now I gotta read.
I feel so bad. I'm like, God, I'm gonna have to switch up my entire career because nobody can pay attention for longer than 8 seconds.
And this is why I was telling you we need to get you in front of the camera. We need to get you more comfortable with it because you could do your little writing, and every week you just sit down in front of the camera, you talk about everything that you've written about.
I know.
And you would do something with it and just be like, hey, talk about the little talking points in every single one of these stories and be like, hey, you want to read more? Go read this article.
It just sort of feels like you're telling a mechanic who's done that kind of work for 20 years to all of a sudden become a ballerina. Like, I get it, and I'm going to try, but it sucks. But that's just the way it is. Media changes. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
People just don't read anymore, and it's so important to read. I mean, there's still a lot of avid readers, and those are the people that take the time to read my articles and the ones on Wrong Speak. And there's a few other decent outlets still who hire good people and run good news stories.
Right.
That's not something that you can just get, 50 other places. But for the most part, it's something where it's just changing people's attention. They need quick. And you can't get quick if you're looking for the truth. It's something that you have to really invest time in.
But that's also the issue is you have people writing these one articles and then they'll copy and paste it and put it in different newspapers. I forget there was an article out of, I think the article about the girl who couldn't get an abortion at 10 years old was an article that came from one newspaper in like Kentucky or something like that.
Yeah.
And they just copied and pasted it, and then somehow it ended up like the front page of the New York Times or whatever. But it came out of this one little article, and it was just a copy and paste, and that's all they're doing nowadays.
Yeah, it's news aggregation. It's news aggregation. I've worked for places like that where it's like, here are the 10 stories we're covering today, and you'll be able to pick them up here, and here, and here. And I'm like, awesome. Why would anybody read our stuff? If they can get it here, and here, who cares, right? So that's why one of the many reasons why I love Wrong Speak, because I have complete and total freedom. I don't have to run it by anybody. I can write about the things that I think are important. These are topics that are relevant to, current events and things like that, but it's not something that you're going to be able to find 50 other places and read the same story over and over, just recycled over and over with a different headline. So that gives me a lot of freedom. and I can put a lot more thought into, the different subjects that I cover. So that's exciting.
That's another thing with the Publica, which had a great idea behind. You have these people that write these articles and everything, and you're starting up little podcasts and everything just for the people that subscribe to it and everything like that, which is great because the people that subscribe to that whole situation, it wouldn't have to read the articles. You just have them saying the talking points of their situation like once a week or something like that. Like I said, you just have the talking points of the articles. If you want to learn more, go read it.
Well, there for a little while, that's what they were doing with Sydney and Jeremy's their Thursday show. They were taking some of the articles that we wrote during the week, and then they would cover them, which was great because I could turn it on and they would sort of really dig a little bit deeper at some of the stuff that I'd done, for that matter.
They had some great chemistry, though. I'll tell you that. That was fun to watch.
It was, and I honestly haven't checked in on them in a long time, but I don't know. The idea was really cool, and I hope that they can make it what they wanted it to be, originally, because it was originally, sort of a let's get all different viewpoints. Let's get, the atheist versus the Christian versus the, just all viewpoints all the time. And that's what excited me about it. I was like, cool. Yeah. All right. Let's do that. Let's get some actual conversation back. Let's get some debate. Let's get some, because when you're not discussing things, there's no growth. You should be able to go into a conversation or a debate willing to concede. You can have your strong points. You can have your morals and your values and have, but you've got to be able to be willing to learn, and you have to be able to be willing to be maybe wrong. And that's okay. And so that sort of gave the idea. I liked the idea of that, of just being able to discuss things. Let me read your viewpoint. Maybe there's something I missed. Maybe there's something that would completely change my mind. Who knows? But we're not having these conversations anymore. People go into debates just this nonstop. It's this way, or my way, and that's it. And there's no growth in that. So anyway, that's what had originally excited me about their idea.
Well, that's the problem nowadays. Nobody can admit they're wrong. Everybody just needs to be right, no matter what their viewpoint of it is. And the advent of the internet has given everybody the ammunition to just be right on their point. And nobody can, nobody wants to just be like, oh, maybe you're right. Maybe you do maybe you do make a point. I'll take that back and I'll think about it. No, everybody just everybody tunes everybody out, waits till it's their turn to speak. And then it's, but this and that.
Or usually talks all over them. That's what I see more than anything. And that's what's so annoying about debates or panels or spaces or whatever. It's just constant, like, you don't learn that way. Just because you're talking louder and you're talking over me doesn't mean that you have a good point or that you're right. That's when you stop listening, you stop growing, period.
Right.
So, that's just not something I'm interested in. I would rather learn, from forever. And I'd rather be wrong at 100 years old or whatever, than right my whole life. And, it just doesn't get people anywhere, man.
No,
you're stagnant.
But Polar says news aggregation mixed with wrap-up smear is a fucked up combination. That the left's been using for some time, even admitted by Pelosi. Yes, she actually did. She was sitting there saying that, hey, we just run a smear campaign and that's how we get our message across. We don't literally have anything to say. It's just this person's bad because of this reason.
Well,
and she did admit that.
Media is the most powerful weapon or tool, however you want to, look at it, that they have. Television, now social media, internet, instant everything. That's the most powerful vehicle, I'll say, to getting what you want done.
And since 2013, it's been all propaganda. Because of the National Defense Authorization Act that put the Smith-Mundt Act.
Yep.
That was involved in that. Actually was able to put propaganda in our news. And ever since then, people have been so completely fucked on the truth of everything. And that's why we got what we got.
I said it before and I'll say it again. The fact that they told you don't listen to Joe Rogan during the whole vaccine thing, and then turned around and said, hey, well, listen to Olivia Rodrigo and all these TikTok kids they'll tell you to get the vaccine, but Joe Rogan, don't listen to him. He has no idea what he's talking about. And you're like, wait, what, huh? What?
Right. The dude that has the longest conversations with everybody, that understands that he's a little bit above functionally retarded, trying to make his way through the world. Don't listen to him. Listen to everybody that just tells you the same thing over and over again.
The ones that are bought and paid for, they're bought and paid for. So it's just like, if you're not wise enough to be able to look at that and be like, oh, okay, I see, they've got a job to do. Well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You deserve it. You deserve everything you're going to get.
You mean like the person that said he wasn't paid by the DNC, but the corporation that he works for is paid by the DNC? Harry Sisson. And then went on.
We got some more coming up with that later on too.
And then going on Tim Dillon's show and saying that he doesn't like Democrats, but I don't like what they say a lot, but I have to vote for them because I have to. It's just what I'm supposed to do.
It's in my contract.
Don't clip that. Don't clip that. Don't clip that. No. But yeah. All right, let's continue a little more here.
All right, but I have to get out of here because I have a 9 to 5 in the morning, unfortunately.
All right,
but
we'll take it
was
easy.
Very wonderful to meet you, Haley.
You too, Davey.
Hopefully this won't be the last conversation we have. Yeah, you can find me at the Business Party Podcast on Wednesdays at 7 Central, 8 Eastern, and just follow us on our social medias, Business Party Network and Business Party Podcast. And yeah, Rich, it's always a fun, wonderful time being here with you.
Same to y'all. Check this man out. The Business Party Podcast, check them out as well, because they go off the rails. They're just organic as hell, and it's great to watch them because they're all literally just trying to get each other in a gotcha moment kind of situation, just to have fun with each other. But they're definitely going to give you some real information along the way with everything. It's great.
Listen, we always say we just give you information. You look it up. We're not right a lot of times, but we're just giving you some information so that way you can see that there's other viewpoints and it's different. And we kind of try to just lay the groundwork for you. I mean,
right.
Go read. Go listen. Go read Haley's newspaper column.
Read
website.
all the words. Just
Yeah,
read every single last one of them.
So you have to do is just read. Also, find me on Twitter at MW Troublemaker and TikTok at Troublemaker Davey. Yeah, that's about it. It was a pleasure, folks, and I will see y'all later.
Should I end your side?
I don't end him. Finish him.
Listen, that's my girlfriend's job. But anyway, see you guys later.
I'm talking about the stream, not that.
Oh, God.
Or not? I don't know. He didn't answer. We'll just leave it with it then. Let's give him some content. But yeah, let's continue a little more then. I need to actually have my
talking about the last election or whether or not we're in a civil war. We need to consider the context from 2016 onward, and probably before, like you mentioned, 2000.
Well, I think the context from like elite institutional forms, like it's so funny coming from another country, because like in every other country in the world, there's a civil service that has the power, right? And the politicians come and they run the country. The politicians come in, they can change the civil service, but it's like steering a massive ship, right? And I remember the reason I wrote The Next Civil War, honestly, is because I was in Washington for the 2016 inauguration, and a journalist calls me at like 2 a.m. and says like, "Hey, come to this party in Georgetown." And I was like, okay. So like I go out to this guy's house, and it was some like low-level bureaucrat from FDA or Department of Agriculture, like the kind of guy who's like responsible for the price of wheat in 2080. Do you know what I mean? Like plan, like analysis of
annoying type of bureaucrat.
Yeah,
like the most innocuous.
Well, yeah, and keep us alive. Like very annoying, but keep us alive. And he taken his chair and he had all the presidential pictures, like the big presidential thing. And I said, "What happened?" He said, "No one came to replace us at the FDA. Like they turned out the lights at the FDA." That's when I knew, like all the other stuff, like the American Carnage speech, all that stuff. That's when I knew America's in trouble. Like, let's start to think about the deep structures of this, because like you can go without politicians, But without a bureaucracy, without a civil service, you're like things fall apart very quickly, right? But my point is with the electoral stuff, the problem is that no one believes that a legitimate election has happened. So
From 2016,
from 2016, probably I think 2016 is really the marker
Yeah.
where it's like they don't actually like 2000. It's like, well, there was some play and it didn't like. But on the other hand, it's like, you know, like we understand that sometimes mistakes happen. Popular vote, but 2016 people were like, this was illegitimate.
I think
2020. The right, I mean, they still believe it's illegitimate.
Considering Barack Obama was clearly the winner in 2008 and 2012, like clearly America was generally like the center and the left were very unified, very, very pro Obama. So I think that because of that, 2016 is probably the most. It's probably more accurate to say 2016 was when it really fell apart.
So here's the point I wanted to make. 2016 election in dispute. Donald Trump, as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the United States, wants our presence in Syria reduced.
Yeah.
The people beneath him who are instructed as per our Constitution and the laws of this land lied to him to keep troops in a foreign country and lied to the American public. But that's some kind of coup.
Well,
when
to me, it's perfectly natural that there'd be a tension between an executive.
See, he didn't even finish what he was trying to say, nor flesh out his idea, and
It's not important.
immediately.
But it's not important, Drunken. See how I just did it to you?
Yeah.
That's my point. You just override the conversation. It's a power move, and they do it all the time.
Yeah, and if you let that happen, well, I would tell you the reason why Tim does it. Tim does it to let you, the viewer, listen to what they're saying. Even with half the information, listen to what they're saying, and usually catch themselves in some bullshit, which he will do multiple times in this episode.
Good.
But that's one thing that they do. You know, they sit there and they listen to half the sentence and then done. It's all about me at this point. And that's a lot of the tactics. It's one of the very fundamental tactics with them. They don't listen to what your argument is. They hear half of what you say and then impose whatever they believe your argument is going to be, because apparently they can look into the future.
Well, plus they've already determined that they are right. And that's, not going to change. So why would they listen to the rest of what you have to say? They're not there to pick up any new information. They've already made a conclusion.
Meanwhile, in this whole damn point right here, this dude interrupted Tim, who was literally going to throw a curveball at that point. I've listened to Tim a lot. I have. But he would have thrown a curveball at the end of his point that would have thrown the dude completely off. However, because Tim played it a little bit close to the chest with it, he wasn't able to throw that curveball out. And it's going to show here in a sec.
And the people following it out. I mean, that just to me is like, that's life. Like certainly that like people, like whoever is the leader of Germany, what he thinks about all day is why won't these people do what I'm telling them to do?
Yes, but the president of the United States is elected by the people to be the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and we never declared war in Syria.
Listen, I just think when you're dealing with large-scale institutions, there's just you can call that a coup, but actually what that is just a natural tension between an executive and a bureaucracy.
When Trump, as the commander-in-chief, says, American forces out, and they say, you got it, boss, don't do it.
Not
they
have
have defied the direct order of the duly elected president.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that's a hard coup where the military storms in and seizes power.
Right.
That is coup-ish, where elements of the military have begun to defy the civilian government.
The military doesn't have the leeway. No one in the military has the leeway by the book to say we're not going to do what my superior officer said, and the president is the commander-in-chief.
This is also the premise of the book, like that there's a military, like it's not necessarily a coup. It's just that like what happens with the military this happens all the time in countries falling apart, countries in civil war. Is that the only institution that everyone approves of is the military. right? And I mean, in America, that's just extreme now.
Yeah.
I mean, like no one has any respect for the Supreme Court. Nobody, never
Well,
mind Congress. never
Military's
mind-
going down.
Well, they're the last one standing in this
Yeah.
in this decline of faith in institutions, decline of faith in the media, decline of.
Y'all saw that, right? He's like, no, that ain't a thing. And then Tim finishes his point, and the dude's like, "Ah, you got a point." He never finished. He never let him finish. He threw that curveball after the dude looked stupid for what the fuck he was saying. Because he never let the curveball come to him in the first beginning. Because all he had to do was just let him finish the sentence, and he'd been like, yeah, you're right. But that's what they do. They try to impose their own thoughts onto you every time. Did Congress approve our troops dropping boots in Israel, or are we just acting in a police action like so many conflicts we've been? Dude, we have never. Congress has not voted for war since World War II. It's all been military police action, which is a way to get around Congress being the ones who vote for war. That needs to change. But yeah. Yeah, it is what they do, though. A lot of times with this is they will impose their thoughts onto you, especially with Twitter and things like that. Like, you can only have so many characters to point out, to say what you're going to say. So you have to either write multiple ones, which if you're going back and forth with somebody, that will reply before you're done every time. And you will catch them in so many if you follow along with these conversations, not just like read one or two posts. Oh, well, I'm done. No, just follow through with the conversation. You will see that these people don't really know what they're talking about. They don't understand because they are arguing with themselves using you as a proxy every time. And that's a good tactic because people only read one or two things, maybe 3 or 4 into the conversation before they're done. But they argue using you as a proxy. They argue with themselves using you as that proxy. And that's exactly what he just tried to do. Tim was like, hey, the troops being over here, and they didn't tell him, anything about that. Well, that's some kind of coup. And the dude, no. Hold on now. I didn't tell you that. What I did tell you was, what I was trying to tell you was this. And the dude's like, oh, well, you're right.
Yeah, he also said it was in his book. He was like, well, that's sort of what my book is about. Well, okay.
So what were you arguing? Because you just backtracked everything you just said. You wrote this book about what this is about, but yet you just said, nah, that don't happen. Seriously.
Is that how he's passing it off as a thriller?
Because
it may be true.
I guess. But it just continues to get worse. Hold on. Let's finish this thought real quick with him.
Faith in the church, right? Decline of faith in local government, decline, that is the mega trend from you were born what, 1980? No, 86. You're almost exactly the point where the decline of faith in institutions begins. Like, your whole life has been a decline of faith in institutions.
Yep.
It's
right?
Tim's fault.
And
explains me, I guess.
Yeah, it does actually. It explains a lot. But
I mean, I was 13. I think I was 14 at 2000 election.
Right. And then you would have been, how old? You would have been 20,
I was 15.
22 in the 2008 crash.
Yeah.
Right. Where suddenly the financial system is a rigged game. Right. These.
I voted for Obama and regretted almost immediately.
These are the effects that these collapses have. Right.
Yeah. First time, didn't vote. Second time.
So you're right that it's sort of slower, but when the military, I mean, I feel for them. They're in a very, very difficult position. And they swore an oath to the Constitution. I think they take it with absolute massive seriousness.
I got one for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you familiar with the coup attempt in Turkey several years ago?
Yeah, sure.
So
that was an interesting one.
Right. So this may be at the time outdated, because I've not followed up on it.
Yeah.
But the general idea is, I remember I was in some city, I'm doing some interview, and we get word that the Bosphorus Bridge has been occupied by a coup force under certain leaders. A story that emerged was that these young men who served in the Turkish armed forces were given a lawful order to defend the Bosphorus Bridge from a terror attack.
Right.
They showed up, no idea what's going on. Then they were mercilessly beaten and dragged to the street by civilians because it was reported these people were attempting to stage a military coup against Erdogan. So the argument is, in the United States, what may happen? And a lot of people are like, you really think that the armed forces are going to go and round people up or do X or do Y? What will happen, or what could happen, is that there will be a simple lawful order that does not raise alarm bells for any like lower ranking enlisted guy. And they say, we're getting reports of a potential riot. So the National Guard, we're going to have you guys deployed to the streets. And then a bunch of National Guardsmen come out, surround a building because they're like, I guess we're here to defend it. And then the news reports, National Guard stages coup attempt. And these guys are everyone points the finger at them. And it could be a mistake. It could be intentional. But the idea is you don't need National Guardsmen or military servicemen to decide to stage a coup. They won't know what they're doing is the coup when they're given a lawful order.
Well, I mean,
does that sound like January 6th to you?
Just a little bit. Does he bring that up?
No. No, that was my thought when it. No. He doesn't bring it up at all. But that was my thought with it. You know, with everything that happened, with everything that we've learned, you know, the way they were trying to incite the crowd with the government, the federal informants and the agents and everything like that. And the way they painted it afterwards sounds exactly the same as what he just described.
Yeah.
Except the people were the military. The people that just aimlessly walked in and are now serving 10, 15, 20 years for God knows what, really. What did they do other than just follow a crowd? They had no idea what was happening at that point in time. They thought, hey, I can come in here. Because there were no signs. There were nobody telling them that they can't be. There was no lawful order given for them to stand the fuck down.
They walked into a trap. And honestly, there's a lot that have gotten arrested that really were just, well, mind you, they were very close to the front, but because they just stampeded and pushed and pushed and pushed, that actually entered the building that would not have if they hadn't had 400 people behind them. I feel for those people. Like that's something that would happen to me where I'd be like, you know, but yeah, man, I mean, they walked into a trap and, you know, there's so many different moving parts to that, so many different pieces because there's, like you showed that document earlier with the known federal agents that were there. And then you've got the, you know, people sort of mixing in with the crowd and instigators, even, you know, even if they weren't outright dressed in black. And actually, don't you remember there was a couple of videos of people where they caught them like running behind the bushes and switching out hats? There's a famous one. There's a girl, they called her the Pink Beret. I don't know if you saw her or not, but she wears a pink beret. She came in, she had like stiletto heels on and stuff. She goes like, pulls this one dude in with her, like gets her, you know, gets him into the main spot and then bolts. And as soon as she's around the corner, she takes her hat off. Actually, that happened right there beside Ashley Babbitt too. I'm sure you've seen that footage over and over. But yeah, I'm just saying all these different instigators, all these different moving pieces to make this happen, built on something totally different. You know, people, I don't know. It's sad. That whole thing is so sad.
Well, there was one instance within the Proud Boys trial where the dude is known as the Man in Red. That's the only way he's known because he was never given up. The name was never given up. The connection was never given up. The Man in Red was the one that actually shattered the window that Dominic Pizzola broke and entered. He was the one. He's at every single breach of the Capitol, and that's the only way he's known is the Man in Red. He's at every single breach, instigating, pushing people into things. He was the one that broke the window that Dominic Pizzola finished off and went through. And he is known as at least a federal informant because, well, we don't know who he is or his name or any affiliation, but he's everywhere, which means the dude knew from the beginning where to go, how to move, what to do, things like that. He knew.
Yeah.
And it exactly what he described with the whole thing in Turkey, the military coup in Turkey, is exactly what happened on January 6th. It is a 100% the same damn thing. And the people took the fall for it simply because they didn't know what was going on. When in actuality, it was the government that set it up from the very beginning, because Trump gave the authorization for 10 to 20,000 troops. They said, no, we don't want these troops here because of optics. Okay, we'll take 5,000 on standby, but they cannot be armed. They cannot be armored. They cannot interact with the crowd in any way, shape, or form per Christopher Miller's orders. They are to stand by and just let everything happen, apparently. And then Nancy Pelosi, who did not authorize for them to be sworn in to work on federal grounds at that point in time, did not do it the night before, wait 71 minutes for them to be sworn in on the Capitol grounds. I would tell you, I would argue that is treason. And I'll tell you that because at that point in time, these insurrectionists were waging war on the federal government. Well, treason says giving aid and comfort to the enemies of the United States in times of war. If they were waging war on the federal government to overthrow the government at that point, that was a wartime activity. And to sit there and stop anything that would have quelled that crowd, that would have pushed that back to the point to where it didn't get to that, you were giving aid and comfort to the enemies of the government at that point in time, thus being treason. Nancy Pelosi committed treason. Plain and simple. But yeah, let's continue a little bit more, because it starts to get a little bit more interesting with the way he takes his tactics, because he's starting to walk back all of his shit now.
The first chapter of the next Civil War.
I'll be back in a minute.
I talked to the colonel responsible for
Sorry, I'm doing
drawing up
laundry
the called
and
full
things too.
spectrum
you're
operations
cool.
in the homeland, right? So that's when they absolutely have. I mean, they have a plan for everything, right? They're the U.S. military. They have a plan for conquering Canada. They have a plan for
they have a plan.
Let's go. There's no contingency plan that they don't have, right? Like they just sit around.
Well, Canada's rightfully ours. I mean, that's obvious.
When you need the water, you probably will come. But we
almost got Quebec. We almost did.
Well, when
1812, I think.
Oh no, you never had a chance. That wasn't us. That was just the British.
Right.
And burned the White House to the ground.
That's right.
Trying to do it.
We tried. I think we took Montreal for a little bit. But
well,
anyway,
you burned Toronto.
Toronto
in 1814. Yeah, you burned Toronto to the ground.
We were so close.
Yeah, you were so close. Well, in the first Civil War, Lincoln's Department of War had, they said, well, we have this army. Why don't we march north and take Canada first? That's why Canada was on the side of the South the whole of the Civil War.
Really?
Right? Because it was like,
I did not know that.
Lincoln, like they made a casual remark, and that event is why we became a country, right?
Abraham Lincoln's like,
no
Canada,
idea.
you're next.
We were a bunch of colonies, like
Yeah.
sprinkled across the northern part of North America. And then Lincoln's Minister of War was like, should we go take Montreal? And we were like, we better get our ducks in a row. Like, it's time to actually get this shit together. That's why we confederated. That's why we became a country.
Wow,
right?
but Canada sided with the South?
Yeah, 100%.
Really?
Yeah, so did the British.
Yeah.
They were
now that I did not know.
Yeah, economically, it made more sense for the
they
British
were
side of the South.
Yeah, the cotton was absolutely necessary to the mills in so
I didn't know about Canada though.
How many times does America have to kick England's butt?
Yeah, well,
I also think it makes
they're
sense.
not worth it anymore.
All right, yeah.
I mean,
it makes sense for the British side of the South because it splits the United States.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think they were thinking it was. I mean, they weren't anywhere near that sophisticated. It was just like, we need stuff for our mills.
Yeah.
But the point is, like, in these scenarios where the military is the last holder of value, I mean, that's where you get really nightmare scenarios for the military, right? Like, they're faced with choices that are extremely bad. I mean, that's the point of this book, and the point of the next Civil War is, like, it's not to think about this as like good guys, bad guys. It's like, actually what you're dealing are people who are faced with terrible choices and terrible incentives.
did you ever read about what happened in Egypt with the first and second revolutions 10 years ago?
No, I didn't.
The scary thing is, and again,
well, I read some of it, but I don't know what part.
It's been a very long time since I've been involved. Everybody knows, I bring it up quite a bit, that I was there. Second revolution.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it was like July 4th, even, which is kind of crazy. But
like Tahrir Square, that stuff.
Tahrir, yeah, I was I was actually watching the revolution take place. The Apaches flying over.
Oh my God.
And the APCs. So what happens is you have a country ruled by the military for a very long time. People eventually say it's time for elections. We want change.
Upon the horizon,
majority of the
I'm
country
wondering
is
if
secular.
that's true. First time I ever heard Canada mentioned in the Civil War.
Right.
What happens then is
apparently yes.
There are like 10 different parties, 9 of which are secular, and 1 is the Muslim Brotherhood.
Right.
Well, guess what?
Bring up the fact check screen.
Let's see.
I've never heard that either. Could be.
Decided with a South civil. I mean, it does make sense though. Huh? Well, yeah, England was, but what about Canada? Let's see. Switch to this tab. American Civil War and Canada. Get out of here. Why? American Civil War in 1861 was fought by whatever causes of the American Civil War. Canadian reaction at the war's outset. What is now Canada was compromised to British colonies. Yeah, because okay, they were.
As a result, Canada and the Maritimes were also neutral.
Britain declared itself neutral. This is support the Union Confederacy. As a result, Canada and Maritimes was also neutral. Despite the official stance, the majority of Canadian and maritime newspapers sympathized with the South, not because they supported slavery, but because they saw the Confederacy as a small power, defying a distant, larger one that is not protecting its interests, which is actually what started the Civil War. Many Canadians and maritime opposed Lincoln because he said the war was not about freeing the slaves, but about reuniting his country, or as he phrased it, preserving the Union. Many Canadian maritime businesses, people sold weapons, offered other support to both sides. So apparently, apparently that is true. And I'm whitewashed right now, but apparently that is true. Apparently they did side with the South in the Civil War, which is amazing. I mean, we're never taught that. I was never taught that.
Mm-mm.
You know, it was just America was the North and South were fighting over slavery, but that's not really what it was about. It was about, it had to do with that, but it was literally the South saying, hey, our, slaves escape. You catch them, but you're not sending them back. You were going against federal law. We are not being represented. You're not upholding this shit. So you're not our government anymore. I mean, that's what actually started it, but could be true, but don't remember ahead of that stuff. Yeah. Well, there you go. Upon the horizon. Yeah. Apparently it is true.
In a first past the post voting system, whoever gets the most votes wins. The Muslim Brotherhood gets 20%, everyone else gets 9%, and then the Muslim Brotherhood wins.
Right.
So a year later, another revolution takes place against the Muslim Brotherhood. Once again, it looks like the Muslim Brotherhood is going to win the elections. Even ousting the president is not going to change the fact the largest voting bloc is Muslim. So the military goes and starts executing and massacring Muslims.
Right.
They start going to where these protests are happening and just gunning people down.
Yeah.
Because the military's thought was this country will never stabilize so long as this group exists.
Right.
So they decide, for the sake of the 80%, we're going to shut down violently and oppressively the 20%. It's a way more complicated than that. And this is probably outdated, just to be clear.
Yeah. But also, like, the number one, like, when you look at the metrics, the number one attribute that leads to having a coup is that you've had one before. Right. Like, and the more that you have them, the more that you're likely to have them.
Because people see it.
Because people see it and they understand it as a political choice. Right. But so that's not really that's not on the cards for the United States. Right. Like, that's not something like
Civil War is.
But Civil War.
The number one attribute of having a coup is that you've had one before. How does the first one start? I mean, you don't explain any of that. How does the first one start then? What caused the first one to actually happen? That doesn't make any sense to me. The number one attribute of having a coup is probably the government fighting amongst themselves. I mean, I don't know myself. Honestly, I've never looked up into that, but
it said that you're more likely to have them once you've had them. Is that what he said?
yes, once you've had one, the number one aspect is having it.
Okay. Uh-huh.
That makes no sense. But then again, it sounded good until you actually sit there for a second and think about it, but he moved on to the next point immediately. Like he just said some bullshit and ran with it and just moved on to the next thing. And you're just like, wait, now you're talking about something else. You can't go back. Well, you can go back if you actually made them, but in that point in time, in a fluid conversation with that, you can't hold them responsible for what they just said when they moved on to the next damn thing. That's another tactic that they actually do. Because the number one aspect of having a coup is you've had them before. Sir, the number one aspect of having a coup is not that you've had it before. It's probably infighting within the government itself, because you can't have a coup if the government is in lockstep with each other. It'll never happen if they walk lockstep with each other. So the number one aspect has to be the government fighting within itself. It's not the people going against the government. It's not the government being tyrannical against the people or anything like that. The government has to be fighting with each other for one part of the government to just be like, no, we're not doing this. We're doing that. Because a coup wouldn't happen if that were the case. My wife says it begins with political extremism, finding a partner in a corruptible government. But once it happens, it becomes more likely to happen again. Yes. But I mean, the dude said the number one coup, or the number one part of that, is having the coup in the first place. So again, you have to track it back to the first time that ever happened. And that's what I was pointing out. But yeah, the dude just blows past that point and just right into another one, and you're just left. If you can't pause it like you would in a normal conversation, you're just left like, hold on, what? Now you're making another point, so I can't go back to that one unless I force the issue. Now I'm playing catch up. But yeah, that's one of the tactics as well. That one he doesn't use a lot in this one, which is amazing to me. It really is amazing, because Tim is more likely to let things like that pass than anybody else would, because there's a lot more people who would be like, hold on. No, let's come back to this. Tim just lets you kind of speak kind of situation and just say whatever the fuck you want without pushing back, which is a lot of problems people have with Tim, though. Again, I get the tactic, but once in a while, you just got to be like, hold on, how the fuck does that make sense? But yeah. You got anything with that one?
No, but I wanted to mention your freeze frame again. They're so good. You'll be talking. I started to do it too, and I was like, don't do it. No, they're good though.
I do that a lot. Especially when I'm trying to make fun of somebody. When I'm going through this and I'm just like talking about somebody, like I really get into it and shit, I will freeze frame at the exact moment where it's just like, this just looks bad for that person.
Well,
I don't know how I do it. It's just, it's a thing.
This expression specifically is very much like, you believe me, right? You believe what I'm saying, right? You know, it's funny.
War is.
We've had one of those before.
We've had two, right? The first one was the revolution. Right. And so it is absolutely built into the DNA of the country to have these kind of civil wars.
All right, take it easy, boys.
You know, the role of the military won't be,
soon,
you know, taking the other side and executing them. That's I just don't see, as pessimistic as some of this stuff is, that's just very on the extreme edge of unlikelihood. What is much more likely is that they're in a constant struggle to impose order on a country that is in political and hyperpartisan chaos.
Similar to Syria, right? So like
that would be the worst, or between Ireland and Syria. Right, like
I'm not sure what you're talking about with Ireland, the troubles and stuff. Okay.
Yeah, like where Syria would be the ultra worst, where you're dealing with death squads.
So wait, our best case scenario is the troubles.
Well, you're already past the troubles. You're
already in the street, though.
Pardon me?
We don't have gunfights in the street over
Yes,
politics.
we do.
Not. I'm talking about like.
Yes, we do. Don't forget about the man who took 2 to the chest just for wearing a fucking red hat. We have that happening. How many times have we seen fights in the streets because you remember that story about the dude who got into an argument with somebody and they pepper sprayed him and then all of a sudden the crowd just beat the shit out of the dude?
Yeah, I do actually.
We have that happening everywhere. Chaz Chop. Whatever the fuck you want to call that thing, that autonomous zone. The dude, they were trying to impose their order and they were just massacring each other. There was a guy that just drove up, not even knowing what the hell it was, tried to actually, okay, let me get the hell away. And they killed him. They unloaded clip after clip into that fucking car for no reason. Don't tell me that shit ain't happening in the streets here. But yeah.
I'm talking about high level gunfights. And I understand there have been fights where people are throwing Molotovs and stuff, but I'm talking about dudes actually like setting up L-shaped ambushes on opposing forces.
White power.
Well, you got a point
go
there.
Into black churches and kill everybody in the name of a political cause. Like, I'm sorry, that's like.
Hold on. Backtrack a bit. What the fuck?
He just
throwing Molotovs and stuff.
Oh yeah, he definitely did.
I'm talking about dudes actually like setting up L-shaped ambushes on opposing forces.
White power people go into black churches and kill everybody.
Where? When has this happened? Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. When? Because I've never heard anything like that. Like, as a matter of fact, the only time I've heard of somebody running up in a church to shoot people, a dude with a gun put the motherfucker down before he could do some real damage. When? When do white supremacists walk into a black church? Because black churches are fucking awesome. I don't know if you've ever been in one.
I have. They're
fun.
Fantastic. Yeah, it was great.
Everybody's all upbeat, singing along, dancing, having a good damn time. Ain't nobody coming up in there and trying to massacre people.
Yeah.
If you try that and you spin just a little bit in the background, you'd be like, hey, I don't want to shoot these people. I want to dance.
You approach the door and start hearing the music and you're like, wait a minute, hold up.
Right. I'm not. This kind of it's a racial thing that they always go to with this kind of situation. It is a racial aspect that they go to with it. Huh? A kid who shut up a black church. Dylan, hold on.
Yeah, there was a guy, he did, and he killed like, God, a dozen or something, maybe 10 or 12. I know who she's talking about. I can't remember his name. Dylan.
Kid shot up black church.
This was several years ago. 2018, maybe 2019.
Charleston church shooting? Yes. Okay, so on June 27, 2015, an anti-black mass shooting occurred in Charleston, South Carolina, in which 9 African Americans were killed and a 10th one injured during a Bible study at Emmanuel. Okay, so apparently it did happen one time.
That's the only one that came to mind for me. I think there's been a couple of other situations, but there's also been like something happened like that with mosques. There's been things that have happened like that, at synagogues and.
Man in church shooting aimed to kill 10 white people. Dylan Roof laughs. When Georgia teen girl plotted racist attack on black Gainesville. I'm not gonna pay you, Washington Post. Dylan Roof. Like that's the only thing that's coming up with it, though. I mean, I'm sure it's happened a few times more than that, but
That was the largest like body count one. I hate to say it like that, but the other ones, two people. Well, it's true, 2 people, 3 people, but it's not happened. It's not like a thing.
no. But the last one I really do remember hearing about is somebody going up and shooting a church was a dude with a gun within that church put that dude down, and the shooter only wound up hurting like 22 or 3 people.
That
Only
happened
killed
right
one.
after this. This happened right after the Dylan Roof situation. It was like within the year, if I'm not mistaken, or a year later. That was like the very next one because they thought it was going to be a big deal. And then one of the guys, it was a deacon or a pallbearer or somebody. I don't know, not a pallbearer, but anyway, it was someone within the church. As soon as he came in, he didn't get very far. That was a young kid too.
What I'm thinking about was I think that
Recent.
was 2021. 2021, late 2021, early 2022. Yeah, this one. California churchgoers detained gunmen in deadly attack. Man opened fire during a lunch reception at a California church on Sunday, killing 1 person and wounding 5 senior citizens before it stopped and hogtied by petitioners, in which sheriff's officers called an act of... No, this wasn't it, apparently, because the one I'm thinking about, the dude was ended by the guy with the gun within the church. Hogtied gunman, that was 2022. So yeah, that would have had to have been late 2021 as far as that goes. But I remember hearing about that. I remember reading about that. And apparently what had happened, Sutherland Springs Church, was that it?
2017, so that would have been right after. No,
the
kill
local arrest.
26.
No, that wasn't that one then. But yeah, the dude walked in and started trying to shoot people. Man who killed 2 women at Iowa Church. Is that it? No, that was 22. No, that wasn't that one. But yeah, I remember hearing about that. I remember reading about that. Like the dude had killed like 2 or 3 people and shot a few more and was put down with a dude, a good guy with a gun situation. I remember hearing about that, but I forget where it was. Or what time that... I think that was late 2021 that actually happened. Oh, was that 2019? Woman kills 2 people in Texas church shooting. Maybe this... Yeah, this was it. Okay, so it was 2019. Yeah, this is the one where the dude comes in trying to shoot people, and he was ended very quickly by a dude with the gun.
Was it a racial attack?
No.
Because that's
No,
what
that
this dude's trying to make a point of, is that it's like a, white on black crime.
Yeah, I mean, he's going that route because that's a tactic that he used too. It's all racial, no matter what. Never mind the fact, Waukesha Parade. Anybody remember that? Oh, I'm sorry. That was the SUV that ran through the crowd, not the black dude that was driving it. Yeah, that's what they do. That's a tactic too. Yeah. I just freaked my wife out.
In the name of a political cause. Like, I'm sorry, that's like that.
And real quick, for the people screaming partisanship, I think we'll just also bring up the trans shooter who went to the Christian school.
Or the riots in 2020.
Yeah,
right. Like
there's still,
like
I understand, but the point that I'm making is that's still different between like militarized units making actual attacks on like a police station to kill everybody and take the location.
It's just a different type of terrorism.
It's true. There's a few questions. Is the difference due to we are not there yet? Is it due to this country is much larger? Or is it due to a shift in tactics and warfare? So we've had police stations boarded up, like in the
I'd say a shift in tactics.
They shut that police station down and they opened fire and killed. Like they unloaded rifles on an SUV, killing 2 teenagers. May have been 1. So
and then you also have police people not wearing badges going out to fight. Like these are like, you're right that it's not the IRA versus the the English army.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's not what you have here. But you have it's called stochastic terrorism.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's just a it's fundamentally just a shift in the whole culture.
And I want to clarify real quick too. With the Troubles, you have occupation. You have the British are in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
In Seattle, it is dominated by a left-wing worldview. In Miami, for instance, clearly dominated by a more right-wing worldview. There's no reason. I got to make this point because this one really bugs me. People will say things like, Civil War, Tim, why don't you go outside and talk to someone? Do you think a civil war is going to happen? And I'm like,
go and talk to them. I did for years, man.
Do you think during the Civil War, right before the Civil War started, a guy who walked out of his door in Atlanta and talked to his neighbor would conclude a civil war is going to happen? He'd go to his neighbor and be like, hey, what do you think about all this? I completely agree with you. Everything's fine. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
The issue is Seattle and Miami are worlds apart from each other. Physically and ideologically.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get the Troubles because Miami is not occupying Seattle, but you are going to see an increase in violence. We did see that with protests.
Yeah.
And what I think people misunderstand about a potential civil war, they think state versus state.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to be.
No. That's certainly not anything that I like. The experts that I talk to, that's not what we're talking
exactly
about, right? Like we're talking about like the delegitimization of the political process, the rise of violence as a solution, the classic method of like trying to tamp down violence by overarching state control, which then leads to more violence. And that is a process that's been played out literally dozens and dozens of times over history, and it never goes well.
Here's my fear. A few scenarios. We've known
I
for a while.
want y'all to mark that in your brain. What did he just say?
They've been around for a long time, but now a video just came out, and it gave me that sinking feeling.
Just one. I get like 5 videos a day that give me a sinking.
No, fair point, but this one in particular, I think it's Texas, set up razor wire barriers to stop illegal immigration.
Yeah.
The federal government came in and got a backloader,
lifted it up,
wire up, and to allow hundreds of people to illegally enter the country.
Yes,
this is there is no way. It doesn't matter what your perspective is on immigration or otherwise. If the state law in the state is saying we say no, it's illegal, and we buy a barrier, and the federal government says we don't care what you're doing, we're subverting your state sovereignty
in violation of the federal laws too.
Absolutely.
But this is something it's happening slower.
I do want to put that out for you guys. Multiple times, Texas and Arizona has tried to protect their own border because the federal government does absolutely nothing. They tell you there's not a problem down there. It's not a thing. Multiple times they have done that. Multiple times the government has stepped in and saying, absolutely not. You can't do that. There was the barricade in the river there, the Rio Grande River, where they're like, no, this is killing people because you got saw blades on it. Like, what's a saw blade going to do against somebody literally swimming across it? Saw blades to be dangerous have to be spinning. There was the what was that? The shipping containers across the Arizona border, which were effective, and they told them no, take it the fuck down because you're intruding on our territory. They literally sued, and then a year and a half later, it's just like, let's continue building the border wall because maybe Trump was right. These people are not working in your best interest, ladies and gentlemen. I do want to point that out. They are not working in your best interest with this. There have been, you can look it up, no matter where you go. The amount is different every single time. Apparently, we have had anywhere between 5 to 10 million that have crossed under Biden's watch. And I do say 5 to 10 million because everywhere you go, every number is different. And then, like I've brought up several times, we also heard it. There's a subcommittee hearing. It's called Terrorist Entry Through the Southwest Border, where Jerry Nadler's economic expert came in and said, it's literally not happening. It's not an open border because they're paying smugglers to smuggle them across the borders. So if they're paying for them, the border's not open. the fact that 0.07% of the people that have come across are known suspected terrorists, so it's not a problem, even though 0.07% of anywhere between 5 to 7 million is still thousands of people. What else was the claim? The fact that no terrorist has ever come across the the southern border and committed an act of terrorism means that it'll never happen. And if you want to solve the immigration crisis, that is not a thing and it's not a problem, just let them all in, no vetting. And these are your representatives. I love pointing that out because that pissed me off when I was listening to that. And Polar was here for that one. Polar was just like, dude, the fuck is happening? But yeah.
Like, I don't know about this particular example, but like one of the things that's happening, it truly is bipartisan, is that states are using their resistance to the federal authority as a vote winner in their own states.
Yup.
Yeah.
Right. And that's equally true in California,
Yup.
as it is for Texas, as it is for Florida, where they are, and that is just playing with fire. I mean, that is, I mean, for everyone, like you were dealing with, where you have this, and you have.
This is the one I was talking about.
About the old guy,
right?
I forget his name, but he had to go to California and say to them, you are in violation of federal authority.
Yep.
Like we are, like, and they did change it, but like it is one of those things where it's like, it's so shallow, this thinking. Like, it's so shallow, this thinking. It's like you have to, if you don't have a basic solidarity, you're not going to survive as a country.
And this is a really good example of the various sanctuary ideas that are popping up. But the point I wanted to make with the militias, when you have the state of Texas saying, by our laws and our borders, be it so, and the federal government, in violation of its own laws and the state, uses the border patrol to act as the inverse. It's almost like Fahrenheit 451. The firemen don't put the fires out, they make the fires. My fear is it only takes 5 guys with weapons to go down there and say, if you won't do it, we will. We have the law on our side.
Oh, yeah. Well, when you have a situation where you don't know what the law is,
but we do,
and there's no, like, when you don't have a legitimate Supreme Court, this is how countries fall apart.
Yeah.
This is what happens in Brazil and Argentina and these places. Like, you're not immune to this.
But
right? Just because you're super rich.
I definitely want to talk about the courts too, but real quick on this point.
Yeah.
We know what the laws are. If you want to come to this country, you file the paperwork, you go through a process. Yeah. If Texas is trying to uphold the law and the federal government is actively subverting the law, you are going to get people in Texas saying outright, the state is illegitimate. It's breaking the law intentionally. And that's when you get people who, what happens is you get the political equivalent of God is on my side. The people,
I mean, wasn't it Abbott who had the, what was the thing where they called in the militia against military exercises in Texas? It was like in 2014. What was it called?
Really?
The conspiracy theory.
I don't know.
Where like they called in the Texas National Guard against military activities by the U.S. forces, just exercises. Wow. What was it called? But it was like, the idea was, but
that is actually a war game situation. It does apply. It's not just Texas that has done that. Multiple states have done that, including my state, Alabama, where I live. We have run those war games as well. Actually, most of the southern states have actually run that situation, which is, it's weird and ominous all in the same, but good on them for doing that, because at least they're upholding the oath of against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I'm pretty sure your state has run that same thing, Haley.
Probably, yeah.
I'm not trying to give away anything of that, but yeah. Most states have actually done that. Louisiana did that not too long ago. 2020, 2021, 2022, no, 2021. They did the same thing. So yeah, it's keeping the National Guard ready on all fronts, no matter what, whether it be foreign or domestic, which I applaud. I straight up do applaud that because you were upholding your oath at that point. To run a war game against your own government, okay, I've got no problem with that. You got anything for that?
I mean, I agree. Yeah. I mean, somebody's got to do it, right? You have to have checks and balances, right?
Yeah.
You got to have someone to oversee. So yeah, of course.
Okay.
Texas governor was saying this is the federal government coming to take away Texas sovereignty in a massive push, right? And it was like this was before I did it. What was it called? I think it started with a J.
Jade Helm?
Yes, that's it.
Hysteria over Jade Helm exercise in Texas was fueled by Russians, former CIA director said.
Right. Like this was a misinformation. And then when you pour that on, then you just get this unbelievable tension, right? Which is just not sustainable.
Let's go ham. I think
I do want to pause that for just a second here. Misinformation, just because they run war games over that kind of shit, does not mean that they are preparing for something. Let's just make that 100% clear. They are staying at ready for anything. But because of the way that it was back then, everything was, oh, they're preparing for Russia, kind of said, nah, that's not what it was about in any way. That was just them preparing for whatever, staying upbeat about it, staying on top of things. But he claims it's misinformation, which is a point because people were just like, hey, Russia's a thing. They're doing this, so it's got to be Russia. You got a point. However, I don't think that should have been something that would have been brought up in that situation. If you're talking about the military as a whole, if you're talking about especially the National Guard, the National Guard is supposed to train 2 weeks a month, 1 month every year, or what is it, 2 weeks a month every year, something like that they actually go and do these things. It's not like they're going out and having a party for that time frame. They're actually doing a lot of work. I've known a lot of National Guard people. I've worked with a lot of National Guard people. They're actually going out there and putting in more work than they actually would in their everyday lives. And there's a lot of things that they run, scenarios, war games, things like that they run simply for whatever reason. The National Guard is actually I would argue the National Guard is actually more prepared for domestic situations than our actual military is because of that reason. So if things were to pop off, I would love for the National Guard to be on my side more than I would the military itself, because they do this, and I would defer to National Guard personnel more than I would an active military person. Yeah, my wife says, good night, Haley. Please keep my drunken in line for me.
I'll do my best. Good night.
We are nearing the point where all courts are basically illegitimate in this country.
Well, no one respects them.
Well,
right?
but the first thing people need to understand is people really need to watch civil trials.
Yeah.
It really is supposed to be a judge as a neutral arbiter hearing arguments and then deciding which argument makes the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
It really is as simple as that. You watch a trial and the judge is like, what do you mean by 5%? Like, you're talking about on the revenue? And the guy goes, yeah, I'm saying when he agreed to this contract. And the judge goes, well, how do you respond to that? And the judge goes, interesting. I actually think he's right. That's really how simple it is.
Mm-hmm.
But now what's happening is with the hyper-partisan split, you are getting judges who are saying, my worldview is clearly on one side or the other, and they're going to issue their ruling on one side or the other. And the other side's going to be like, how could you possibly think that?
Yeah.
They're clearly corrupt.
The Mar-a-Lago case
this begins to happen.
That's the like when you look at something like the history of Chile, like that is what happened, right? Like it's like slowly, and then people start to lose faith in other systems, and then it just becomes it just becomes like my family versus your family,
Well,
right? Like, I mean, it becomes really on that basis.
Yep.
And
Red or blue.
And I remember having a friend who came back from living in Saudi Arabia for like, he was making money there for something, and I said, "What did you miss most about living in Canada?" And I expecting like maple syrup or some shit, right? or something, like I missed a hockey or something, right? And he said equality under the law. Right. He said, if you're driving and you hit the wrong person in Saudi Arabia, even if it's not your fault, like you're done.
If you're a woman and you get raped, you go to jail for having sex out of marriage.
And when you like the
that
ultimate luxury, the ultimate heritage that we have been passed down by our forefathers and foremothers is equality under the law. When that is gone, you are just in anarchy.
So 2020 isn't the first, but I believe it was a gigantic spike through the heart of this nation in terms of how the courts handled the election. There was many spikes for sure,
but that was one of them, I guess.
Not one of them. So you have all of the lawsuits filed by the Trump campaign and Trump campaign allies. You get the media lying about what happened, and many of the courts ruling on standing, not merit. It doesn't matter if you think Trump is right or wrong. The rulings need to be on merit, not standing. Yeah. And the standing argument is a cop-out, so the courts don't have to take responsibility. This was a big problem. With the case of Texas v. Pennsylvania, are you familiar with this one?
Which one is that one?
This is 48 states.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay.
Suing over whether or not states were in violation of the Constitution in how they handled their elections.
Yeah.
Because
their own constitutions.
Their own constitutions.
Oh, yes.
The argument being courts and executive branches altered the rules of an election in a state where the Constitution says only the state legislature can do this.
Yeah.
The argument from Texas being if Pennsylvania's election is not sound, then their votes should not count against ours. There's a dispute here that needs to be answered.
I mean, this is the end of...
The Supreme Court said we don't care and refused to hear what's called original jurisdiction, state versus state, saying answer this constitutional question so we know. And the Supreme Court said no.
And the reason they didn't is because they were afraid of having to find in Donald Trump's favor
or against him.
They
did not want to. They didn't want to answer the question at all. They could have taken the case and said Trump's wrong. But only Thomas and Alito said, we have to hear this. It's this is the rules of this country. And everyone else said, we don't want to be involved in this.
But I mean, I think the problem here is that those rules are just being eroded, right? And the faith in those rules is just being eroded. It's not like
it's being lawyered to the most digital.
But it's
granular.
not just a question of like lawyering is not the problem. The problem here is that this system is from 18th century. Like, and it's not, and it's like, it's not like, this is the thing. It's easy to get angry and it's easy to get like, you did this and you did that. But actually the problem here is that these systems mean that no one feels like their voice is heard politically.
Yeah.
So, right. Like conservatives keep sending Republicans to Washington to change it and it doesn't ever change. And then they go, and then they get really angry and they blame. But it's like the lesson here is that no one is actually having influence. I mean, this is what like Andrew explained. He betrayed his political class. He told me the truth of how it works. And when you look at the influences, you look at the incentives for people, there's just no incentive to actually listen to the public.
Right. I want to clarify too.
He's got a point. Conservatives are the ones paying attention. They're the ones actually voting for these people to go in there and change shit, and it never happens. One thing he forgot to mention is it's the progressive Democrat area that votes in people to do whatever the hell they want because they don't pay attention. And they run roughshod over everybody else. And just because these people are on their side, well, everything's got to be good. There is that bifurcation within Americans that's it. It's literally in a nutshell. You have half the country paying attention, the other half of the country just being like, I don't give a shit, but I'm still going to do my right to vote kind of situation. That's what it is. And you got half the country sitting here saying, shit's fucked. We need to fix this issue right now. And the other half is like, no, because the news told me everything's fine. It's not happening.
Well, not only that, but the left has organization skills. They will get behind each other and support whatever the cause is, even if they don't fully agree with it, even if, it's not 100%, whereas conservatives don't. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that conservatives are self-starters. We're responsible. We want to do things on our own. But it backfires and things like that because we end up nitpicking different things. Because I disagree with you on this, this, and that, I can't support you on this bigger thing. And that's the biggest thing, I think, is because they will back each other. They will back each other without even questioning it.
Mm-hmm.
We're the opposite.
Case in point, the whole Israel-Palestine shit. Like, the Palestinians literally just airdropped in and mowed people down, and everybody's like, yay! Are you kidding me? But if Israel were to do that, y'all would be screaming like end Israel. I mean, you're screaming that now, but it had been worse. If the roles were reversed in any situation, it's that it's not a double standard situation. It's a tribal issue. Well, I can justify it because my side did it. When Republicans actually do hold themselves to, they try to hold themselves to a higher standard when it comes to that. Just because my side did it doesn't mean shit. I mean, overwhelmingly, Republicans are like, get George Santos out. The people are screaming, the dude lied about everything. There's no reason he should be in office. We voted for what he was lying to us about. Get him out. And the Republican Party's like, no, just because we have a majority, if we kick out one of our own, that would lessen that majority. We need to keep him in. They're not listening to their people.
Mm-mm.
They're thinking of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the whole, the Jim Jordan being the speaker. Everybody on Twitter that was even considered centrist or right-leaning was like, I want Jim Jordan to be the speaker. And in public, they would vote for him. 20, anywhere between, it got worse, but it started with 20 to 25 voted against him. But when it comes to the backdoor secret meetings, which I call for no secret meetings ever again within Congress, we need to understand exactly what our people are saying, what they are talking about in every situation. It came to 86 people voting for him to step the fuck down. You went from 25 to 86 literally in one day. What happened? Well, it's because the public was watching. The public saw these people voting their way and they were like, hey, my dude's doing good. When in actuality, once the cameras are off, he's voting in his own best interest. And that's left and right. The difference is the left does it out in the open. They don't give a shit about you. They look at you as a bank account. They look at you as a vote. And that's it. Whereas the Republicans, they're just like, you're a bank account. You're a vote. I gotta please you in public, but I'm still gonna do whatever the fuck I want to do.
Well, Trump aside, when is the last time you felt like local or state level, federal, any of it? When was the last time you felt like you were really represented and that the people who could make some of these decisions were making them in favor of humanity, Americans? You can put Trump aside because I think that was sort of that was the golden boy for that point in time because he was really trying, I feel like, to listen and to do his best, I guess, to not appease everyone, but to really, put some things into action. Set him aside. When was the last time you felt like you were truly heard, represented, that things were moving in the right direction for the betterment of Americans?
Locally?
Well, yeah, you can do, if you can get one local, that's great. And sometimes, that's
Locally, never.
Well, okay, there you go. That's what I mean. I can't really.
On a federal level, very, very few. Like there there are some good things in each president that I could say that have done good things. There's overwhelmingly bad on every side, even Trump.
Right,
You know,
right.
but when have I ever felt really represented myself? Never.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Do you really ever, when it comes down to it, because you were saying, you know, backroom, you know, secret deals and secret meetings and so forth, it's like, if they were like, if we were the checks and balances and, you know, we had the last word, right, and could actually influence them, which is how it's supposed to work. You know, how long has it been since that was even a thing? It's like they all have their own personal interest, you know, and whether that's,
Every
you know,
time.
money in Lockheed Martin or it's stocks or it's whatever, they don't, they're supposed to work for us, which means they're supposed to listen to us. And I just, when I try to rack my brain, I'm like, well, I can't say that I could ever put my finger on one that I really felt was doing the right thing across the board. Now, mind you, yeah, I mean, you know, nobody's going to be perfect, but, you know, it's sort of like one of those things where they say it takes, you know, 10 positive statements to, you know, do away with the one negative that you hear. Same thing.
Yeah.
You know, to where they would have to really start backing up some of the things that they said. I mean, how many times do people, you know, as candidates on any level for that matter, will run on a certain ticket, you know, and they get in and they do absolutely none of them or worse?
Hey, every single time.
Yeah. So it's
I
just, I
mean,
don't know. It's depressing because I don't feel like any of them really, especially local, and local honestly should be the ones that are the closest to their constituents and the closest to the people that they're representing. Well, it's supposed to be, right? Like
yeah.
those are your hometown boys and old money and old families and whatnot. But I don't,
Well, there's also that case of that Alabama mayor who ended himself because people found out he was transgender.
I just saw that
Yeah.
yesterday. Yeah.
There's that case as well, but I mean, it's I don't ever feel represented as myself because all right, I'm more of a centrist kind of person. I was 10 years ago, I was a middle of the road, left leaning kind of person. Nothing has changed about me except my stance on abortion since then. And now I'm a middle of the road, right leaning kind of person. Depending on who you ask, I'm a far leftist just because, or a far right just because I back Trump at this point in time, who I still hate on a personal level. The dude is a fucking complete narcissistic goddamn asshole, but I cannot deny the good he did for this country. I cannot deny that he put more money in my pocket. I cannot deny that he told me the media was a lie and showed me. I cannot deny that the dude walked across a demilitarized zone between North Korea and South Korea without armed guard and fucking lived to tell the tale. I cannot deny that the dude walked into Israel and told the United Arab Emirates enough is enough. And they said, okay, cool. The first step towards peace in a country that hasn't seen peace for over 2,000 years, the first step was Orange Man. I cannot deny any of that. Though he's a narcissistic asshole, I'm going to probably hate him till the day I die for that reason. You did some good. And you made everybody, not everybody, but you made a vast majority of this country understand what the government was really doing behind closed doors. I cannot fault the man for that. I'm not going to hate on the man for that because you did good. We are now paying attention. But I ask you this question, Haley, which is what I ask everybody. Had they not locked us down, do you think we'd be where we are now?
Meaning as far as financially or
Meaning as far as understanding politically what's happening.
if they hadn't locked us down? I don't know. I'll say yes, only because of all the points you just made, actually, because when Trump, I guess you could probably say 2015 for that matter, but once he really got into office and you started to sort of, I think people started paying attention more, and I think people started caring more. And when you realize that you're losing family members because you're siding with this person, I think people really wanted to try to understand, you know, why Like, why did they hate this man so much, right? So then if you're involved in that, the fake news, that was a big deal. Like, he termed fake news, but it's true. And it got people to pay attention. It got people to start analyzing the information that was coming across, what they were seeing. So I think as far as like waking up, I think that happened a little bit prior to the lockdowns. I think the lockdowns did more damage by far on society, 100%, mainly because of the information, coming through our screens and stuff. But no, but I think he, sort of lit that fire before the lockdowns.
Yeah. I mean, I can agree with that, but I will argue with the whole fact if we were not locked down and the news was not shoved in our face every single day, all hours of the day with the COVID death count and everything, would people have realized how much the media was lying to us? I mean, yes, he would have said it. People would have seen it, but would it have been on a mass scale like that?
Well, I think because of the ticker at the bottom of the screen that kept the death count and so forth and so on, that was sort of an addition to the people that were already questioning, right? So you've already got doubt. You've sowed doubt in people's minds from their trusted sources. So now when they're seeing this and maybe the people around them aren't getting sick or whatever, they're questioning that too.
Right.
I don't know. It's a good question.
I don't think we would have.
Really?
Honestly, if they did not lock us down, I don't think the bifurcation would have happened. Definitely would have happened because, people are paying attention more, but I don't think it would have happened as much because everybody would have gone about their daily lives no matter what. They would have continued to believe whatever their like I call them, their LED God told them to believe. They never would have seen the lies because you see these things on the news and then you go on any kind of social interaction, which is social media, because you weren't allowed to do anything. You weren't allowed to talk to people, stay 6 feet apart, put a mask on, don't talk, blah, blah, blah. Nobody would have had that interaction between each other to be like, look, this is happening. No, it's not. Here's this. Here's this. This is happening. No, it's not. That kind of, you would have never had that.
And to your point, I guess, the mainstream media was overwhelmingly more loud than the people that were trying to get truthful information to people. I mean, you take Russiagate, right? Like that's the perfect, because I was trying to think your time frame, 2015, 2016, up until when we locked down, which wasn't until 2020. So that's several years. I think a lot of people were waking up then and starting to pay attention.
Well, I came up in 2017. Like my whole awakening to the whole thing was, okay, I didn't vote with Trump and Hillary because I was just like, are you kidding me? This is some bullshit. Why are you offering me this? I did not vote.
Okay.
But in 2017, it was December of 2017. I remember it like it was yesterday. This is December of 2017. And I was working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I had just skipped work. I called out of work one day. It was a Friday. It was just like, all right, fuck it. I'm going to have the weekend to myself. I listened to his speech that he had. I listened to it twice. And all I heard was a narcissistic, I'm good, everybody loves me kind of situation. And I didn't hear anything other than that. And then I went to work the next day. I came home. I turned on the news and it was just, Orange Man said this. No, the fuck he didn't. Well, Orange Man said that. No, he did not. Because I listened to and I just started paying attention more and more. And I was just like, y'all motherfuckers are lying to me. So I came up on my own with that whole kind of situation. But I do feel like if we didn't have the lockdowns, we wouldn't have had what we have today. Because people wouldn't have paid attention more.
So what is today though? What do you mean?
Well, can I take a piss real quick?
Sure.
And I'll answer that. Yeah.
Yeah. Play this, and I'll listen.
All right. Hold on.
As to what at least my view is, and then I don't know if you agree or not, but
yeah.
The Constitution, as you mentioned earlier, a work of genius, but 18th century genius, and I think that's correct. The core ideas of why we did it and the ideas behind it are correct, but we have way more people now. We have tremendously different systems of communication. And so
let me ask you a question.
Just the final thought is, it doesn't mean, I'm not saying the Constitution is wrong or anything. I'm just saying the perspective of it is rooted in it doesn't take into consideration a lot of things that are different today. And I don't know how you rectify that.
Well, this is my question
Amendments,
for you.
perhaps.
What America is starting again. America has a constitutional convention. They get together. What is the Constitution that they make look like to you?
So
what are the principles that actually unify the United States today, right now? Honestly, think the fact that you're stunned by that question.
Anti-war is probably no foreign intervention is probably going to pull the highest.
You can keep freedom of speech, right? Like I think everyone in America. You don't think so, eh?
No.
Jesus, is that how bad it is?
Well, so
you can't even agree on the First Amendment. You can't even agree on rule number 1 of the Bill of Rights.
So for the past 10 years, the start of the culture war in this country was social media platforms. I'll give you the Twitter example because this is the one I was involved with Jack Dorsey, Joe Rogan. Twitter says if you misgender someone, we will ban you from this platform permanently.
Right.
Yeah. And I said, what does misgendering mean? Because conservatives, if you go to someone who's biologically male and say she, you've misgendered them. To liberals, if you go to someone who says, call me she, but you don't, you've misgendered them. Two distinct worldviews, and you've chosen to enforce one.
Right.
Free speech would argue, you guys decide, just keep it respectful. No. You look at Twitter and what do you get? You got people on the left would post pictures of wood chippers for the Covington kids, and people on the right would get banned for saying #learn to code.
Yes.
So the left perspective in this country was, if it is hurtful, it's not free speech. At the same time, we're allowed to be hurtful.
It's one of the.
Yes. I mean, he has a damn good point with that. That is exactly what happened with that shit. They only enforce the rules on one side. Because honestly, if you're saying, if I claim that I was a woman and you said, no, you have a penis between your legs, you are not a woman, you misgendered me? That's their claim. However, the exact opposite is true. You're not a woman if you have a penis between your legs. And even if you get it chopped off, you're still not a woman. You're a mutilated man. But because they were only holding up one side of that argument for political reasons, we're in the situation we are now. Which is exactly what I was saying before with the whole thing. You know, if they didn't lock us down, would people have paid attention to anything? I mean, case in point, do you remember? I'm pretty sure you remember because you stay plugged in. Do you remember Occupy Wall Street?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how that fell apart?
The news?
Identity politics. They were saying, hey, because this dude, your skin color right here, this dude thinks you're shit. That's how identity politics and the racial divide actually started, was because of that. 99% of this country was united in that because everybody was stealing our money, the bank collapse and everything like that. Everybody was just like, something's got to change. You're taking my money. You're banging me in the butt. I'm trying to keep it a little bit soft here. You're taking the best way I put it is the left and the right are both effing you in the A and making you argue over who's the better rapist. And that's exactly what happened with Occupy Wall Street. Is there was a racial divide, and you know they started pushing identity politics into things, and everybody started saying, hey, you hate me because of my skin color, because the left says so. The right's like, I don't give a shit about your skin color, but the fact that you were attacking me for that is a problem. And there's the divide. Which is, you know, like I was talking about, had they had locked us down, would it have gotten this bad? Would people have, okay, we would have known about the riots, but would the riots have actually happened so much if they didn't lock us down?
That's why I said news when you said right before you said identity politics, because it's It's social engineering. They use that as a vehicle
Yeah.
to steer, where they want it to go. I don't know, because I think there was a lot of damage done, because everyone was obviously locked down and plugged in. But, the people who were paying attention were gonna be paying attention anyway, and maybe, had more time on their hands to look a little deeper into some subjects. But then you have the other side of the coin that are on, different, gender forums and, incel forums, even plugged into these different communities, that actually changed the fabric of society when we came out of it. The transgender stuff, it rose like 400% during the lockdowns. As far as like young kids, trying to do, things like that. I think there was a lot of damage done, but as far as I don't think it was specifically information based, because I think a lot of the population was looking to entertain themselves, and just keep their minds busy rather than information, absorbing information and trying to understand the way of the world. They were trying to escape it.
I can see that.
A good
I can see what you're saying.
percentage, right? Because look how much different things are now. And I think between that and, the education system where all the kids are at home and, the teachers are at school and passing whatever comes across their desk because they want to get the federal, grant money and want to make sure their numbers are up. We've got kids, 7th, 8th grade reading on a 3rd and 4th grade level, because during that time period, anything goes. Don't work hard. There's kids, now that have no ambition, because why would they? They've got 3 or 4, well, I guess 3 years, 2 or 3 years of a lockdown, and teachers who don't expect them to push themselves and will still reward them, like the damage was definitely done. And I think, we're definitely worse off for it.
Oh, we definitely are.
Not just that, right? Like, yeah, start a list. Start a
Y'all
list.
call millennials bad. Wait till this new generation starts growing up. God.
Yeah, it's going to be different.
But I don't know. It's hindsight being 2020 as far as that goes. I honestly don't think the divide would have been as bad had they had not locked us down, pushed this information in our face constantly 24/7, because everybody was so worried about COVID. They turned it into an orange man bad situation, and the only pushback you ever heard from was Fox News. And, well, let's demonize Fox News because of this reason. Don't listen to them, only listen to us. I'm sorry, that divide just broke right there.
But they hit us on every angle. They hit us on that angle. They hit us on COVID. They hit us on the racial stuff. Like, it came every direction. We were surrounded. If you weren't divided here, we're going to divide you here. Oh, you're not, you're still together on that. Okay, fine. We'll divide you here. Like, there were so many different things that sort of splintered off relationships and, not only the trust in the government and science. And you've got that side of it, but when people are burning cities down, it's almost like
peaceful.
Yeah, it was like they were running every play in the book. It was like, okay, we'll do this. Go ahead and compound it. And we'll do this. There was a lot going on. It was a crazy time, right?
Yeah. 10% of the protests got violent. Okay, I'm sorry. 10% of 6,000 is still 600. So it's not mostly peaceful. No, there's a lot of problems.
Well, and to your point earlier, that's just it. The loudest outlets, the ones that got played 24/7, the only channel that you have available when you're in the airport, nonstop ticker and death counts, and, and people are looking for authority, whoever's in the authority, to let them know what's going on. And look who that was, Fauci. So it's like
the social engineering aspect of that. Yeah.
I lost faith in just about everything during that time period. When you look at these things and you know that you're blatantly being lied to, and you've got all, friends and relatives and stuff that are not only falling for it, but hating you because you didn't. It was,
that was a huge, like, during that time frame, like, I love I do. I know it's weird to say, but I love my in-laws,
Mhm.
but they're old. They come from an older generation where everything was okay. And the fact that I argued with them so much about different things. It's, well, Trump did this, Trump did that. No, 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 no. Let's tell this. No, that's not the thing. And I'd bring it up and they'd be like, well, still, Orange Man bad. I agree with you. He's an asshole. But what they're saying is not true. And now it's come to a point to where it drives me nuts, but my mother-in-law comes to me even questioning, my doctor gave me this medication. Is that okay? I don't fucking know. I'm not a doctor, number one, but I'll look up into the medicine and knowing your history, should this be a thing? Maybe, maybe not. But the fact that, she's got heart conditions, and the fact that she went into a hospital and then they're just like, well, you should take the COVID vaccine. Hold up. There's a lot of heart problems that are coming around with this COVID shit, and you just want to push this vaccine on her, knowing full fucking well, if anything happens, we can't go after you. No, I'm not going to allow that to happen. I actually almost went to blows with her doctor. Like, I had almost been removed by the police because of that situation. She's had open heart surgery. She's had a whole bunch of things going on with her heart. And you want to give her something that's known to have heart issues, but because you can't say it and you're paid for every vaccine, you're paid for every case, you're paid for everything, you're just going to push this on somebody who will literally die. And I know full well she will die. No. It's things like that. And even that alone eroded the trust in medical, because the doctors that were pushing back against the whole thing, well, they were silenced. Everybody was just like, they were getting paid to push a vaccine. So on a company standard, every doctor, even if they knew maybe you shouldn't, well, they were pushing it because, well, financially it's great for the hospital. With things like that also caused another divide with us, because I'm sorry, the Pfizer data dump, 5.3.6 post-market data, I think is the title, 8.5 pages of adverse events. Maybe I shouldn't go any further because we do have Davies. Yeah, but that exists. But yeah, it caused a huge divide in this country and everything. And you were right. They came after us at every angle, everything that they could say. And the vast majority of it is, if you don't fall in line, if you do not walk in lockstep with us, you are the problem. Doesn't matter if your questioning is valid. Doesn't matter if your questioning makes sense. Doesn't matter if you look and say, hold on, you want to say election denial is bad, but these people were saying that. It doesn't matter. Follow lockstep. And that was really what struck people.
Well, and I think the most damaging thing was the censorship of this, because it was information that was not made available to the public, or it was something where you had to dig to find any opposing side to what, was already pre-approved. That's what was most damaging, because, again, if it's something where you don't have another option, I mean, what is that? People should always have the ability to reach information and have access to information. If it's honestly, I mean, it's pretty simple for me. If you've got something that you're claiming, you should always allow that other side to try to push back on that. Because if you have a good point, and if you've got something that's going to stand, you should not fear that. But what did we see? We saw the opposite. We saw them completely suppressing, and, doctors kicking them off social media, all of that. But if you've got a good point, why would you be concerned about pushback? You've got to silence people and shut them up.
But yet the right of the fascists.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yep. Silencing political opposition, imprisoning political opposition.
Mm-hmm.
attacking political opposition to the point to where they cannot function. That is fascism. And that is not coming from the right. Okay. It is now. I'll admit that. It is now. But I think that is more of a reaction to everything that has been happening. These people who have been silenced, these people who have been demonized, who tried to play by the rules that were set forth before everything changed, before you changed the rules in real time. Now they're playing by the rules, or now they're, the right's playing by the left's rules, and the left is screaming foul. And that's the biggest thing. It's just like, you cannot play victim. Don't play victim now. I mean, you were calling for my death because I wasn't vaccinated. You were calling for my death, and you think, oh, well, because we didn't have the information, let bygones be. No.
Mm-hmm.
No, because the information was there. We were trying to tell you this, and you called us conspiracy theorists. You called us liars. You silenced our voices because we were speaking out and saying this was a problem. Yet you called for my death. No, I'm not going to give you amnesty for that. There is a problem. It needs to be addressed, and there needs to be some kind of consensus, I guess would be the best way to say it, before things really start popping off, which you're not willing to do. You're not willing to concede the fact that you were wrong. You're going to say, I didn't know, therefore you can't blame me.
Mm-hmm.
If I claim the same thing, I didn't know Trump was drone bombing every other country because they stopped reporting on it. Therefore, you can't blame me because I didn't know that Orange Man was literally bombing other countries for absolutely no reason. No, you're not going to hold me to that. You're not going to allow me to that. So why should I allow you the fact that you were calling for my death because I didn't take a vaccine? We're on YouTube. But yeah, it's that situation. And I just can't fathom why these people don't understand this. Other than the fact that you don't want to admit you're wrong.
Mm-hmm. It's pride. It's pride. What little they have. But it's pride. People cannot bring themselves. Because think of how long that's been going on, Think of how long they've had to defend that stance. I think they can't bring themselves to be like, oh, man. Well, for real.
Yeah. I mean, we have gone off the rails here ourselves. And Davey isn't even here. But I love this conversation. I really do. This is actually great. But it's, for that whole standpoint, it's like there has to be some consistency, and both sides show absolutely none. Whereas, okay, Republicans at the very beginning, they did show consistency, and I get the pullback on it. I get it, because you cannot stand on a moral high ground with those that have no morals. I understand the fact that they're just like, okay, this is the rules laid out. Let's play by them. You want this whole thing like, what was it? Vosh said, I don't care about morals. I don't care about ethics. I just want to win. Well, that's where we're at now. Nobody cares about morals. Nobody cares about, your beliefs or anything. It's just the fact of winning. And nobody's consistent anymore. And that comes from left and right.
Right.
But those that do stand on a moral high ground, those that actually try to play that morality role, I'm sorry, you're losing. You really are. You're losing at every ground because you do have a point. However, you're getting slapped around just because you feel like you want to turn the other cheek just because you're better than them. Now, that don't work. There has to be a point where you actually make a stand. The problem is, and I've said it before, when you make that stand and you actually you have that whole thought in your head, okay, it's time to fight. It's time to do these things. We're going to play by their rules. Now you're flipping everything on its head. At that point in time, the pendulum starts to swing back the other way. How long and how far can you push before you're literally just taking that shit sandwich, turning it over, and taking a bite from the other side, expecting it to taste different? And then you got the whole far right claim. That's what we're seeing. With the religious far right, the authoritarian right, and everything that they were screaming about. Well, that's having a rise now because you gave it validity. You were screaming about everybody being the far right, everybody being the religious right kind of situation. Now you gave it validity. People are just being like, okay, well, hold on. They're making a point. They're understanding. I've been attacked by this side so much. Maybe I can find my identity here. And we're seeing that huge shift with that pendulum that I do not actually believe we're going to be able to stop before we take the other side of that shit sandwich.
Well, I think our side is very reactionary, right? Like, I'm not saying that we should be going on the offense, but if you're going to play by their rules, you have to understand that they set things up knowing what the response is going to be. Your reaction is their real action, I think is how it goes. But
right,
we can't, and that's another big fault that conservatives have. Like, we try to not go on the offense and be overly forceful, but reacting is exactly what they want. They that's why it gets pushed as hard as it does, because they're looking for a certain reaction, and if we pop off over here, maybe the reaction they want is here, and I don't know. I just think you're right as far as, these huge sides, but you got to say earlier when you were talking about how you've sort of changed politically, well, the whole landscape has sort of tipped. It looks totally different now than it did, 5-10 years ago. Politics are much different now. Like, most what used to be considered a centrist, now there's sort of one side or the other because you have such extremes on both sides. Things, everybody's sort of like, trying to get away from it.
Well, yeah, there is that. I all you have to do is just look at that. What was that? The Parental Rights and Education Bill. Everybody knows that as the Don't Say Gay bill. That started from like kindergarten to third grade. Don't talk about sex ever, and then it went on to literally high school because it was a reactionary thing. Everybody started to push back. Okay, so you're talking about this, you're talking about this, you're talking about this, you want to remove this, and it's just like, okay, fine, fuck it, no more. It's that reactionary thing that you're talking about that actually pushed that so far. And you got House Bill 233. That was just to remove government from marriage. It was a common law marriage kind of situation. If you've been with somebody for so long, you've been living with this person for so long, common law marriage. It was a two-page bill that turned into 20 pages because the left was like, well, the Republicans want to marry kids because it doesn't say in here age. And the transgenders, it doesn't say in there this. And it turned into 20 pages. You literally just put more government into that than it should have been. And it's a reactionary. You damn sure have a point, because every bit of that was reactionary. We just have to stop reacting. That's all it is. Stop reacting.
Or do it wisely, right? Take a second, take a breather, figure out, it's like chess, right? Like, you got to figure out the next 4 or 5 steps. And that's what they do. They take time to analyze the situation and say, all right, if we move this piece here, they're going to do this, this, and this. They know the next 4 moves. So if they want you on move number 2, but if you happen to do 3 and 4, they also get these other 2 moves, then, you have to start thinking that way, or we're always going to lose.
Yes. But I mean, that's what the right is. They've always been reactionary kind of people. They've always been, okay, things are the way they should be. We need to keep it that way. But they don't want to change with the time.
Yep.
The left is the one actually changing the time. And you just got this bifurcation now. But As far as everything, I'm trying to play nice with YouTube right now. But as far as everything goes at this point, I don't see an off ramp. Do you?
No, I mean, we're hitting a fever pitch, right? Like it's a powder keg. No, I mean, I don't. I wish I could say I did, but I really think we're sort of past the point of no return, and I think it's just going to speed up. I think the opportunity for that to happen has passed. I think we had a couple of opportunities to hit the off ramp, and we didn't take them, and we didn't push back, and we didn't stand for what when we should have put our foot down, so to speak, and said no more.
Yes. Yes, definitely. I don't see the off ramp either. I don't see anything changing from what we are now. And we are kind of wrapping this up because Kaylee's got to go here in a little bit. I will continue with this because there are a lot more things I want to point out. And I'm sorry I paused so much. I'm sorry we got derailed so much, but like I told you from the very beginning, this is what we do.
No, it's cool. I've enjoyed it.
But I don't see an off ramp to this either. And there's no politician that's going to say you're not going to vote your way out of this. You're not going to get yourself out of this. That time has long passed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to have to play it safe with YouTube. But there is a reason why the border is the way that it is, ladies and gentlemen. And to play it safe with YouTube, I'm going to pose it this way. Why would I send any weapon of war if you would take my army in willingly, give them money, give them everything, protect them from criticism from your own people? Why would I send a single bullet your way? That's the reason why the border is actually the way it is right now. And it plays into everything. But I know you got to go here, so let's go ahead and give this. As far as we only made it like an hour into this, and we are supposed to go.
That's halfway. That's halfway.
Right, but do you have any? I urge you to seriously watch this. I'm going to finish this up with the viewers here and everything. I urge you to seriously finish this up because, like I said, it's going to enrage you very soon into this. We didn't get into that point, but do you have any final thoughts with any of this, Kaylee? I'm sorry, Haley. Kaylee, what the fuck?
Who's Kaylee?
I don't know. I've been drinking.
You're
Apologize.
Good. Do I have final thoughts? I think it's interesting to have this Canadian sort of explain American politics to Americans. That's interesting, but it's more about the state of the world, I guess, and how close we could possibly be to civil war. But that's been talked about for a long time too. I think as far as this, no, I do want to watch the rest of it because, like I said, I saw a thumbnail that was like, whoa, and I didn't watch it because I wasn't, I didn't want to screw this up and I wanted a natural reaction. But I don't know, man. It's sad because it's all sort of doom and gloom, right? Like when you really get down to brass tacks, there's a lot going on right now. And it really does make you wonder how far your vote goes. Whether or not it even matters anymore. And I hate to even say that because, I mean, I've voted in every election I've been able to, local and otherwise, but, it's just a sort of a depressing time. I don't know. There's too many, like I said earlier, there's just too many different moving parts right now. As far as will there be another election? I don't know. I think the way that things are ramping up right now on a world view, there's a possibility that it gets canceled maybe. And that just sort of gets extended. Like you said, maybe they bring in martial law. I could see that being a possibility. They don't, I don't know. The whole world's a mess, Drunken. What do you want me to say?
Anything you want to say.
That's it. That's it. I wish I had answers. I wish there were easy answers. I wish that the answers that are posed in front of us made sense as good options. But we're in a world of mess. Do you think there's going to be another election? Do you think we'll make it?
It depends on what you say by election, like what we are doing right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the way it's,
I mean, that's kind of hard to say. We still have another year before we even try to vote. We're
it's coming right up, though.
Yeah,
that's not long.
We're staring down the barrel of World War III.
That's what I mean. That's not long if you think of that.
With the southern border the way it is, like I was saying, why would I send a weapon of war if you offer or if you welcome my military into your country with open arms? The global intifada kind of call situation, I do believe that there's actually going to be a massive event that is actually going to play something here very soon. Yeah, they called for it on a certain day. Well, nothing happened. These things take time to actually plan. These things take time to actually execute on a mass scale, especially when you're talking about countrywide. And if that happens countrywide, martial law is definitely going to take place. Joe Biden has already talked about bringing up the draft. He's already talked about, if things go bad, we're going to lock down the country again. He's already talked about that kind of situation. So you cannot take that off the table. Martial law could be a thing in this country, and we haven't seen that in a long, long time. Would this be the last election? If the left has their way, yes. Because if you remove the ability for us to actually change up our government in any way, shape, or form, then the only way it can go is the direction it's always gone. And the fact that people are paying attention right now, there is some pushback. There is a chance, but y'all have to understand how this is progressing. You have to look at it all with an open eye, see left and right side of it, and literally follow the middle path of it all. You see this happening. Okay, so what are they saying about this kind of situation? Both of them are actually true in certain instances. Will this be the last one? I'm honestly going to say yes. Because
I think they would never relinquish power back to us if they didn't have to, right? So if they can prevent it, right? Now that it's in their hands, the ball's in their court kind of thing. So
if they lock us down through martial law, they'll never relinquish that because they will. It takes, what is it, about a month or two to change up your habits.
21 days.
Okay, 21 days to change up your habits. Give it 6 months. The lockdowns took a year and a half before they started lifting all that, and everybody still wears masks. Everybody still does this weird shit.
Yep.
If you give it that long, we will never know what it was like beforehand because we've already changed up our habits. Will this be the last election? Yes. As things are going right now, yes, because there is no off-ramp to anything. There is no pulling back from any way, shape, or form. There is straight World War III, plunge right in. America just screws itself, and we're done. We will always be the United States of America, but will we be a constitutional republic with democratic elected officials? Nope. I can't say yes or no. I can say yes or no. I will say no. Because of everything that we've seen, everything that we've gone through, no. We will not be what we were supposed to be. We will be something completely different, an amalgamation of things like an oligarchy, a communist country, a fascist country. We will be an what is it? Demagoguery? No, that's not it. But oligarchy. That's it. That's what I was looking for. We will be an amalgamation of all these things together, where our corporations and our government tells us the way it is, and we're already seeing it happen. And I wish we weren't on YouTube, but I'd say something else. But I do appreciate you stopping by, Haley.
Such a joyful note to end on, isn't it?
Right?
Have a great night. See you tomorrow.
I do appreciate you. How about this? Let's do this again where it's actually just me and you talking.
Okay.
We'll be just talking about some things, and we'll just be actually, instead of trying to follow through something, because every time I try to keep this kind of every time I try to keep some kind of schedule and regulation with this, it just never works. But I'd love to have you back. Let's sit down and actually have a conversation sometime and really talk about things.
All right. Let's do it.
All right. Well, you have a good night. I will continue this with everybody else that's watching.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for y'all's time. I will check
Definitely.
the end of this tomorrow. What?
Plug yourself.
Oh, okay. Well, if you just go to, if my account stays at Lady Kennington on Twitter, there's a link tree in my bio that sort of links off to some other fun stuff. But yeah, just go there. You can catch me there and sort of figure out all the other fun stuff I've got going on. But yeah, I do appreciate your time. And let me know. We'll do it again. I will watch the end of your show in the morning.
Okay. And I definitely appreciate your time as well. Everybody, make sure you follow her because she is an actual great journalist. She goes into some things. She deep dives into some things. She will give you some information. I guarantee you never know. But definitely check her out. Haley, I appreciate you.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
You too. Have a good night. All right. So I still got some time. You know how this is. We go for a long time on my channel. We're going to finish this up because this dude really goes into really leaning into these tactics very, very soon. And we're going to continue a little bit here.
Things that's fascinating to me about watching American politics, I mean, it does bleed into Canada, but it's not anywhere near as intense, is how the left comes up with ideas and then the right takes them on and just take, like, book banning in libraries, like that was started by left-wing groups, right?
Yes.
And then the right took it on and was like, let's do this for real. Like, let's start to ban all these books.
But so let's clarify that.
Well, there
are real examples like To Kill a Mockingbird.
I actually want to, like, let's get back to, like, because I actually want to, I'm fascinated by this question. This is now the question that I think might follow this one.
Yeah.
Is like,
what unifies this country?
Okay, we all understand that it's broken, right? We all understand that, like, this system is just not functioning. And, like, you know, you can have your pride in the Constitution. I get it. It's a beautiful document. Like, I get why you would want to stand behind it, but it just doesn't work, right? What is the document that would work? And if you're telling me that you can't even agree on freedom of speech,
well, but
how are you going to get to?
But hold on. What is commonly referred to as the right in the United States is pro-free speech, even for people who they don't like and don't agree with. The left is opposed to free speech explicitly.
It's some and some. Listen, I've met these people.
Right, but it's like, dominant
actually,
and dominant.
There's a huge majority right in the middle who actually believes exactly what you said before. Disagreements are fine. Be respectful. Like, be a decent human being. But you're allowed to say whatever the hell you want. And that is 80% of the United States. There's 10% on either side who think those people should be annihilated.
But look. There are extremists on both sides.
Hold on, Phil.
But it is the dominant left-wing view of suppression and the dominant right-wing view of open speach.
No. That's I think if you look at the government actions, if you look at like Florida's take on
maybe we should have started like an hour into this, because this is where the real tactics really start to come out. God damn it. See, I wish I could follow something. I wish I could make it, but this is what we do. as far as it goes. Everything is organic. Everything is like there's no plan to anything that we do here with this channel. If I talk to somebody, if I bring somebody on, it's more let's talk, let's hash it out, let's finish everything. I want to hear you. I want to hear your points so everything gets derailed incredibly quickly. But if we had just like started at this point, it'd have been perfect. Because this is where it literally breaks down. They start arguing with each other. They start going off. And I put it this way. This is the, as far as the Culture War podcast with Tim and everything, we've covered a few of them. This is the least troublesome, but it is a perfect ability to, or a perfect episode to show the ability of somebody who uses these tactics without flying off the handle.
On Bookman, I mean, there are
But
many,
wait, hold on.
This
This
is
is why I asked-
only in libraries. It's only
hold on.
curation. What you're talking about is curation. You're not talking about banning. You're talking about selecting what will and will not go into a library.
This is
not whether or not you can get it. Curation is not banning. Those are two different things.
But this is why I was getting into the granular element of what is book banning, because what you were saying is children should have access to adult content.
Well, what I would say, I mean, what I genuinely believe is, I mean, I believe in letting people read whatever the hell they want.
I don't think 12-year-olds should learn about blowjobs.
I totally disagree.
You think you should
100%?
I think they should have a book. You see, this is the problem.
No. I mean, well, just like someone as a parent.
What about
like? I mean, I think hiding information from children, like let me tell you something. Adults are not smart enough to know what children need to know. And also, if you hide information from them, they find it. They just find it in a different way.
Well, so this is a big component.
This is a practical question. It's not a question of like morality or anything like that.
No, it is.
Well, I mean, morality is of very little interest to me.
So the issue is, it's not about.
Hold on. Morality has very little interest in you, or interest to you. So the belief of good and evil, the belief that one thing is good or one thing is how do I put this? The belief that there is something good and there is something righteous and the belief that taking away that would be bad, would do detrimental harm. As a matter of fact, I'm sorry. For all of those on Davy's Twitter, I'm sorry, Davy's YouTube and Twitch, y'all want to follow this conversation, I'm going to bring this to Rumble only because it's about to get bad. There's the link for y'all. Come over here to Rumble with that link if you want to follow along, because it's about to get real. And I'm not going to hold back. I'm not. But follow along if y'all want to be there. Until then, take it easy, YouTube. And Twitch, y'all know what to do.